Meeting me again in the Heiyuan safe zone, thousands of miles away from Zhonghai. Wang Chuanfu's inner feelings could only be described in two words: absolute shock. He had never seen a survivor squad dare to cross such a vast distance and remain completely intact. Not to mention, our scurrying squad left Zhonghai completely independent of the military. In this era crawling with zombies and mutant beasts, the fact that the scurrying squad could safely set foot in Heiyuan was a testament to our strength in itself. In his eyes, the scurrying squad was truly unfathomable. "Captain Jiang, why are you guys here?" Wang Chuanfu looked at me, his eyes full of doubt. He genuinely didn't expect to run into me in a place like this. Before I could even open my mouth, a cough echoed from the side. "There are people, doomsday beggars. Of course they'd be here." Ho Dingkuan took a slow sip of his wine, looking at me with an unpredictable gaze. "Ling Feng, keep them here." "Boss." Not long ago, Boss Ho was still suspicious of the scurrying squad recommended by Ling Feng, yet now his attitude was as firm as iron. "You did well." Ho Dingkuan patted Ling Feng's shoulder, giving a subtle nod. Ling Feng wasn't stupid. He immediately understood, and a smile crept onto his lips. Beside them, Tang Changyang suddenly felt something was off. The atmosphere in the room seemed to have shifted. "Boss, we also want to join the Doomsday Beggars. We were in the same platoon as the scurrying squad in Zhonghai. I don't want to go against them," the young man with the buzz cut suddenly spoke up. Although he had a reckless personality, he knew full well that the Doomsday Beggars and the Blackwater organization were enemies. Once they joined Blackwater, sooner or later they'd have to face the legendary scurrying squad. "Hey, think carefully. Our Blackwater organization has evolutionary crystals." Tang Changyang started to panic. The situation was changing too fast, all because I had just shown up. Clearly, the Fengshan squad held me in extremely high regard. You could even say they feared me. At this moment, Ho Dingkuan suddenly felt a surge of confidence. He glared coldly at Tang Changyang. "What's an evolutionary crystal worth? You guys have over 20 elite squads. How much would a newcomer even get?" Tang Changyang's expression shifted slightly. He didn't answer, just looked over at Wang Chuanfu and the buzzcut youth. "What do you two think? If you ask us, joining the Blackwater organization, the resources you'd get would definitely be more than with the Doomsday Beggars." Wang Chuanfu hesitated for a second, glanced at me, and then said slowly, "We're joining the Doomsday Beggars." Tang Changyang almost couldn't believe his ears. The Fengshan squad actually changed their minds at the last second. "You two better think this through. Our Blackwater organization isn't something the Doomsday Beggars can compare to." Tang Changyang's voice sank, turning dark and cold. "That's enough." Ho Dingkuan slammed the table and stood up. "Tang Changyang, what the hell do you mean by that? You think you can just shit on our heads? Don't think your Blackwater can run wild here. This is the Doomsday Beggars. If you dare spout any more nonsense, then get the hell out of here." His eyes were brimming with murderous intent. Tang Changyang also stood up, raising an eyebrow, a sneer tugging at the corner of his mouth. "So you're saying the Doomsday Beggars want to go to war with the Blackwater organization?" As soon as the words fell, the atmosphere in the room instantly tensed up. Everyone understood the implication of his words. Turning hostile meant an all-out war. Recently, conflicts between the Doomsday Beggars and Blackwater had been nonstop. Grudges had been piling up for a long time. Ling Feng looked at Ho Dingkuan anxiously. Ho Dingkuan's eyes flickered. He understood war was probably unavoidable, but despite his anger, there was still a hint of hesitation. What the hell is the Blackwater organization anyway? In the midst of the absolute silence, I spoke up. All eyes immediately locked onto me. "If you don't have any other business, please get the hell out. I still have a few things to ask Chairman Ho." I continued, my voice calm. Tang Changyang's face turned as red as a pig's liver. In his eyes, I was just a 20-year-old kid, looking no different from a college student. "You little brat, you dare talk to me like that?" "The Blackwater organization," he raised his voice. Before he could finish, I cut him off. "I'll be waiting for you guys. Didn't Blackwater issue a wanted poster? You want the scurrying squad's lives, right? However many men you bring, I'll kill them all." I said it very lightly. Beside me, Sun Kuan smirked. "Brother Jiang is such a badass." Ling Feng and Shao Qi exchanged a look. Their eyes were full of shock, directly challenging Blackwater. I really had some serious guts. Ho Dinkuan looked at me, both surprised and overjoyed. Those words were originally supposed to be said by him. Even though an outsider said them on his behalf, it still felt incredibly satisfying to hear. Wanted poster? Shuriying Squad. Tang Changyang suddenly remembered. No wonder the name Shuriying Squad sounded familiar. It turned out to be the outsider squad the chairman had just issued a wanted poster for not long ago. So it's you guys, the Shuriying Squad, the ones who blew off one of Huang Haihe's legs. In the midst of his fury, he suddenly calmed down. His pupils shrank, his gaze turning icy. Just like Huang Haihe said, you really are arrogant. But let's see how long you can keep up that arrogance. Don't think the doomsday beggars can protect you. Shuriying Squad, if you dare step half a foot out of the safe zone, just wait for the endless pursuit of the Blackwater organization. He gritted his teeth, practically emphasizing every single word. Ready whenever. I didn't even bother glancing at Tang Changyang. I just reached into my pocket to gently rub Luo's head, replying in an indifferent tone. Since the apocalypse broke out, I've faced countless threatening factions on this journey. Why would I be scared of a measly vice chairman of the Blackwater organization? Just you wait. Tang Changyang gritted his teeth, glaring fiercely at Ho Dinkuan. Ho Dinkuan lit another cigarette, his attitude unyielding. Tang Changyang, go back and tell your big brother Tang Chongfei. If you guys want to go to war, bring it on. He had long despised the two brothers, Tang Chongfei and Tang Changyang, the chairman and vice chairman of Blackwater. And at this moment, he fully displayed the aura of a leader, decisive and resolute. Blackwater scumbags, get lost, Xiao Qi shouted from the side. Finally, a fight was about to break out. He was so excited that all his pent-up frustration poured out. On the contrary, Ling Feng's expression was heavy, a sense of foreboding rising in his heart. Because recently, he was the one who had been suppressed the most miserably by Blackwater, while the doomsday beggars were much more loosely organized. That was why he wanted to pull my Shuriying Squad in. Now that they had completely fallen out, their disadvantage was even more apparent. Tang Changyang gnashed his teeth. Before leaving, he shot me a look full of venomous resentment. If it weren't for an outsider like me, everything would have gone smoothly. It was all my fault. Moreover, I dared to publicly humiliate him, making him wish he could immediately go back and plot a crazy revenge. When Tang Changyang left, the atmosphere in the room softened a bit. Brother Jiang, from now on, we're on the same side. The buzz-cut youth smiled brightly, completely unaffected by the tension just now, which made me a bit awkward. Same side. I haven't joined the doomsday beggars. I replied with a faint smile. Captain Jiang hasn't joined? Wang Chuanfu was startled. He had been hesitating, but because he trusted the Shuriying Squad's strength so much, he decided to follow the doomsday beggars. Hearing this, he looked at Ho Dinkuan with both surprise and frustration. Chairman Ho, what's the meaning of this? Didn't you say Brother Jiang had already joined? Ho Dinkuan was also surprised and turned to look at Ling Feng, because Ling Feng was the one who recommended me. And my attitude, right now, clearly showed no intention of joining. Ling Feng looked embarrassed and said slowly, Captain Jiang, I thought you guys came here with the intention of joining our organization. Do you not think highly of us? He had already seen that my squad was absolutely not an ordinary beginner squad. Otherwise, the B-rank function squad wouldn't have valued us so much that they were willing to offend Blackwater just to cooperate. Seeing Ling Feng's awkwardness, I chuckled softly. I actually had a good impression of this guy. At the very least, he was an upright person worth befriending. Actually, you two don't need to worry. I'm not joining because our squad is used to being free and independent. But I'm new to Haiyuan and don't know anyone, so I need some friends to support me. We cooperate, and it's a win-win for both sides. Hearing this, Ho Dinkuan's eyes lit up. Cooperation was exactly what he desperately wanted. Moreover, he was now convinced that the Shuriying Squad was absolutely not simple. How do you want to cooperate? Ho Dinkuan took the initiative to ask. We provide combat support and coordinate in operations. In return, you provide us with what your organization has, including resources and information. I answered concisely. What the doomsday beggars lacked the most right now was combat power to deal with Blackwater. No problem, Ho Dinkuan replied decisively. Then I'd like to ask for some information now. I considered my words and said, I have a very important person who is in a special health condition and needs medical assistance. Also, there must be Tier 2 evolvers in the Heiyuan safe zone. I'd like to ask the chairman to help me get in touch with them. Lastly, I also want you to investigate if there's a scientist surnamed Su among the group of people who came here from the Zhonghai safe zone. I spoke fluidly, my calm gaze fixed on Ho Dingquan. Hearing this, he frowned slightly, because all of these were sensitive pieces of information in Heiyuan. Captain Jiang, Ho Dingquan smiled wryly. I can find an ordinary doctor right away. But your friend's problem probably requires a specialist from the Heiyuan Medical University affiliated hospital. In this apocalyptic era, those high-end medical resources are reserved only for high-ranking officials, government scientists, or squads with an A-rank reclamation order just to get a single diagnosis. As for Tier 2 evolvers, they're all recruited by the military into elite special forces, enjoying the best resources. It's very hard to contact them. As for investigating the scientist surnamed Su, I can help with that. Speaking up to this point, his voice carried a hint of helplessness. No matter how strong the organizations in the Fifth Channel were, above their heads was still the military government of the Heiyuan safe zone. Factions like Blackwater could only pick up the scraps and utilize the resources the military left behind. Actually, when he said this, Ho Dingquan hit a part of the truth. Rumor had it that the leader of the Blackwater organization used to be a Tier 2 evolver in the military, but was expelled for some reason and later founded Blackwater. Of course, he absolutely didn't dare reveal this to me. If I ended up leaning towards Blackwater because of it, it would be an irreparable loss for him. Then I'll leave the investigation of the scientist surnamed Su to you, Chairman, I said in a deep voice. From the very beginning, I didn't expect to solve my sister's condition immediately. But just having Ho Dingquan's help to find clues about Li Yusin's mother and grandfather was already a significant step forward for me. No problem, Ho Dingquan nodded, then continued seriously. But right now, we are completely at odds with the Blackwater organization. They will definitely seek revenge. I think we need to quickly complete a reclamation order mission. Reclamation order? I frowned. This was already the third time I had heard of this thing. Seeing my confusion, Ling Feng stepped forward to explain. Captain Jiang, the reclamation order is a policy issued by the Heiyuan safe zone. It's aimed at counterattacking zombies and mutant beasts, reclaiming living space for humanity. This order is divided into 5 difficulty levels. The lowest level only requires eliminating mutant beasts threatening the surrounding areas. Higher levels require dealing with beast hordes, or clearing out nearby routes, towns, and villages. As for the Level 5 Reclamation Order, the highest level, whoever completes it will be granted autonomy over certain cleared towns and can recruit survivors for production and farming. In other words, that town belongs to you, as long as you periodically hand over a portion of the resources to the government. Hearing this, I couldn't help but be amazed. The Heiyuan safe zone was indeed a massive area, and their methods were incredibly bold. The reclamation order was dangerous, but the accompanying benefits were extremely enticing. This way, elite squads of free survivors, not directly under government control, would willingly risk their lives to complete missions. The government saved manpower, expanded the safe zone, and indirectly controlled these elite squads at the same time. My eyes lit up slightly. This thing seemed tailor-made for me. High risk, but the rewards were equally proportional. More importantly, if I continuously completed reclamation orders, I could quickly upgrade my squad's rating in the government system. As long as I reached A rank, I would catch the eye of high-ranking officials. I'd have the chance to get a diagnosis from medical specialists, and by then, the hope of saving my sister would be much greater. At the same time, I'd also have the opportunity to come into contact with Tier 2 evolvers. Chairman Ho, how many reclamation order missions have you accepted so far? I asked curiously. From his attitude, I realized he was trying to pull both the Fengshan squad and the Shuriying squad to his side, clearly to quickly bolster his forces. Therefore, the missions he accepted were definitely not simple. 2 Level 3 reclamation orders and 1 Level 5 mission. Ho Dingquan's voice grew noticeably heavier. A Level 5 reclamation order. I couldn't hide my astonishment. Ling Feng had just said that Level 5 missions were usually undertaken by A-rank squads, sometimes even requiring multiple A-rank squads to join forces. Those were extremely dangerous missions. Normally, only the military's elite special forces would dare to take them on. Can your organization really handle that? I asked bluntly, because there wasn't a single A-rank squad in the Doomsday Beggars. Even if we can't, we have to try. Ho Dinkuan smiled bitterly. Being pushed by Blackwater to this extent, risking our lives, is our only option. Besides, this level 5 mission is quite special. The scope is very broad, with many squads and organizations participating together. As long as we don't run into any terrifyingly powerful mutant beasts, with all our forces combined, we might be able to complete it amidst the chaos. He said that, but I could clearly hear the lack of confidence in his voice. What is that level 5 mission? I asked. Assaulting a beast nest. Ho Dinkuan's face instantly turned grave. Even though I always kept my cool, hearing those words made my brows furrow slightly, waves crashing in my heart. Just a moment ago, I thought Heyuan had guts, but now I realized the leadership here was even more ambitious than I imagined. A beast nest was the base of countless mutant insect monsters. Just one broodmother was enough to spawn a terrifying swarm. In the past, the Zhonghai Safe Zone, with its artillery, anti-aircraft guns, and millions of elite soldiers, was ultimately breached by a beast horde created by mutant insects. There were many reasons, partly due to weak underground defenses being attacked from within, but the main reason was that the beast horde was simply too terrifying. Later, it was discovered that there was a beast nest near Zhonghai. I even suspected there was more than one underground in that area. Giant worms and mutant beasts poured out from there, striking at the fatal weak points, ultimately causing the complete collapse of the Zhonghai Safe Zone. Assaulting a beast nest? Isn't that just courting death? The buzzcut youth exclaimed in panic. Not long ago, he had just escaped from Zhonghai. The moment the safe zone was swallowed by the beast horde, that bloody scene was etched deep into his memory. Zhiliang, shut up. Wang Chuanfu glared at the buzzcut youth named Zhiliang, then looked over at Ho Dinkuan. If there wasn't a reasonable explanation, he absolutely wouldn't participate in a beast nest assault mission no matter what. Actually, the beast nest isn't as scary as before, Ho Dinkuan said slowly. The area around the Heyuan safe zone has experienced 2 major beast hordes, and both times. The safe zone relied on fortresses, walls, and many powerful evolvers to successfully defend. Moreover, a significant number of mutant beasts inside the nest have already been killed. Recently, the military sent elite squads to scout and discovered that there aren't as many mutant beasts inside as before, and most of them are injured. This is a great opportunity to completely wipe out the beast nest. Besides, in this level 5 mission, the military will act as the main assault force, attacking the central area, while we only need to provide support and clear out the surrounding areas. The more areas we clear, the higher the mission completion rate. Hearing this, everyone finally understood the situation. If that was true, the danger level was indeed significantly reduced. Our Shuriing squad accepts. I nodded, then asked, so when do these reclamation order missions start? The 2 level 3 missions will start in a day, and the level 5 mission in about a week. When the time comes, I'll have Shao Qi notify you. Seeing me agree so decisively, Ho Dinkuan finally broke into a smile. With everything settled, the atmosphere instantly became much lighter. I chatted with Wang Chuanfu and Ho Dinkuan for a bit longer, then Shao Qi let us out. When we climbed out of the pitch-black 5th channel, the blizzard outside seemed even fiercer. Large chunks of snow whipped against our bodies, howling in the wind. Amidst the wind, I vaguely heard a radio broadcast echoing from afar. The Heyuan Safe Zone People's Broadcasting Station brings you our 6th announcement of the day. We have just received great news. The Blackwater Alliance squad has successfully counterattacked Weishi County, clearing a massive safe area. This is a victory for the people of Heyuan against the zombies. Blackwater Alliance squad. I raised an eyebrow. Clearly, Blackwater had just completed a large-scale reclamation order mission and was even being praised on the broadcast. Judging by that tone, the entirety of Weishi County must have been cleared out, becoming a new safe zone. Being able to reclaim an entire county, Blackwater was truly not simple. Damn it, those Blackwater bastards are showing off again. Xiaoqi muttered in annoyance. We doomsday beggars need to speed up our progress. TSK, you just have to do one big thing to get on the radio? The leaders of Heiyuan are really clever. With a broadcast like that, Blackwater gets all the glory, and other elite squads will risk their lives to take on missions, won't they? Sun Kuan said with a laugh. I smiled faintly. He wasn't wrong. Even though it was just a small trick, it was enough to show that the Heiyuan safe zone strength didn't just come from merging a few military factions. It was also because the decision-makers here truly had vision. Right at that moment, the roaring sound of engines echoed from afar. I looked closely and saw 8 military trucks rushing in from the main gate, heading straight for the residential area at the foot of the mountain. There were a few fortified buildings there, with guards and barbed wire fences at the entrances. It's the Blackwater Organization's convoy, Xiaoqi gritted his teeth. As the vehicles approached, Sun Kuan and I stepped aside. I carefully observed each truck as it passed by. All of them were eerily silent. With my observational skills, I clearly saw the faces of the people in the trucks. Everyone looked tough, exuding the aura of seasoned warriors. They weren't much different from the elite soldiers I had met in Zhonghai, cold, and some even had dried blood on their faces. Elite troops, I assessed silently. Suddenly, I felt an incredibly strong wave of energy, so strong it made my heart race. It reminded me of the moment I faced Chang Shunkai in Banju City, when he evolved again and lost control. Unfortunately, due to the limited angle, I couldn't see the owner of that energy. Inside a high-rise building in the residential area, Tang Changyang was sitting in the top-floor hall, chain-smoking. The curtains were drawn tight, the lighting dim. The doors suddenly swung open, and a bald, muscular young man walked in, bare-chested. On his chest were deep slash wounds extending all the way down to his groin. Just a little deeper, and he would have been cleaved in half. Why the long face? Something happened. The bald young man's voice was deep, carrying a strange magnetism. He glanced at Tang Changyang, casually grabbing a towel from behind the door to wipe his head. Bro, you're hurt this badly? Tang Changyang was startled. That bald young man was Tang Changyang's older brother, Tang Changfei, the chairman of the Blackwater Organization. Despite being blood brothers, Changfei looked at least 10 years younger than Changyang. He was much taller, nearly reaching 2 meters. His skin gleamed like jade, his muscles like tempered steel. His entire body exuded a surging vitality, brimming with explosive power. Yeah, Weishi County was tougher than I thought. There was a Tier 2 mutant zombie, but I managed to kill it in the end. Changfei said in a deep voice. As he spoke, he pulled out a bottle of cold water, poured it straight over his head, and casually dropped onto the sofa. The towel on his head quickly steamed white as it soaked up the cold water. Meanwhile, Changyang stood to the side, not daring to speak, just waiting quietly. That's refreshing. Changfei suddenly stood up, tossing the towel aside. Bro, are your injuries really okay? Changyang asked worriedly. No problem. I got scratched by that Tier 2 mutant zombie today and caught some poison, but the mutant cells in my body have already purged it all. As for these wounds, with the vitality of a Tier 2 evolver, they'll heal on their own, Changfei said nonchalantly. Sure enough, as he spoke, the wounds on his body were slowly closing. If you have something to say, spit it out. Changfei glanced at Changyang, his voice not hiding his annoyance. He hated his younger brother's indecisiveness. I went to the Doomsday Beggars today to recruit a new B-rank squad, but failed. And I ran into that C-rank squad you issued a wanted poster for. Tang Changyang bitterly recounted everything that happened. Especially when talking about the Shuriying squad, he deliberately exaggerated their arrogance. Hearing this, Changfei's face didn't show a ripple of emotion. Small matter. If the Doomsday Beggars want to oppose us, kill them next time we see them. I haven't made a move before only because the government was breathing down our necks. I heard they also took the Level 5 Beast Nest Assault mission. We'll find a chance to wipe them out then. As for the Shuriying squad, a C-rank squad evaluated by the government, can't you handle them yourself? I can handle them. Changyang felt reprimanded and quickly replied. All right, I need to train. Bring out the fresh meat we caught a few days ago. Changfei stretched, expanding his chest. Popping sounds echoed from his body like firecrackers. His aura erupted fiercely, a low roar escaping his lips like a lion or a tiger. Changyang immediately understood and stepped forward to press a red button on the sofa. A humming sound echoed as a wall resembling a fireplace split open, revealing a secret room cast entirely in steel. Inside, 3 massive mutant beasts were chained up tightly. Seeing Changfei, they drooled, their eyes violent and bloodthirsty. Changyang, Changfei growled softly. Changyang immediately pressed another button. The iron chains unlocked, and the 3 beasts shrieked as they lunged forward. Changfei charged straight into the melee. Even though he had seen it many times, Changyang's face still turned pale. He was both in awe of and terrified by his brother's madness in combat, constantly tempering both body and mind, always struggling on the line between life and death. That was exactly why Changfei's abilities always improved by leaps and bounds. Shurrying Squad, Doomsday Beggars, and the Function Squad too. You have no idea how terrifying my brother is. A cold sneer tugged at the corner of Changyang's mouth. In his mind, he could already picture me trembling on my knees at his feet. When I returned home, the delicious smell of food hit me. Looking into the kitchen, I saw 2 graceful figures busy at work. It was Rin Xiu and Li Yusin. A gentle warmth welled up in my heart, like I was truly coming home. You're back. Li Yusin heard the noise and turned to see me peeking in. I felt a bit shy and gave a stiff smile. Cooking. I tried to ask a silly question to cover up my awkwardness. Yeah, they even provide fresh vegetables and eggs here. It's been so long since I've had fresh veggies. Her voice was full of excitement. It was true that lately, the Shurrying Squad had only been eating mutant beast meat and evolutionary crystals. It had been a long time since we had a normal meal. I still couldn't help but be amazed. To have fresh vegetables in the middle of a blizzard, the government must be growing them in greenhouses. Such production recovery capabilities were truly impressive, even distributing them to survivor squads in Zone B. Back in Zhonghai, only the upper class and scientists had the chance to enjoy such things. Brother Jiang, go wait outside. It's too greasy in here. Rin Xiu poked her head out, sweat dotting her forehead, a gentle smile on her face. I nodded. It felt really nice having someone prepare dinner for me. Go check on your sister. I went back to the mobile base, gently looking at Jiang Zhuiying, who was sleeping soundly, and pulled the blanket over her. Beep, Starbug's cold voice echoed in my head. Research at the Mutant Plant Institute is complete. 7 mutant thorn seeds have successfully germinated. 8 mutant cotton plants are developing unstably, requiring the addition of complex rare metals. 4 other mutant seeds show no reaction, requiring additional nutrients and a designated evolutionary path. My eyes lit up. After waiting for so long, the Mutant Plant Research Institute finally yielded its first results. This was my biggest investment to date. 2 Tier 2 mutant crystal cores and a massive amount of rare materials had been poured into this project. And I had high hopes for this hidden evolutionary path. Starbug, activate the Mutant Plant Research Institute. I commanded in my mind. Beep, activating the Mutant Plant Research Institute. Warning, insufficient internal space. Temporarily auto-adjusting space allocation. Insufficient internal space? I was slightly surprised. It seemed upgrading the mobile base had become extremely urgent. The Mutant Plant Research Institute alone took up a massive amount of space. Right after Starbug's announcement, the cockpit completely transformed. The dashboard, dials, and seats disappeared, replaced by an enclosed space bathed in a blue light. Under my feet was black soil mixed with rare metals and mutant beast meat. 8 mutant cotton plants swayed gently, secreting a metallic liquid from their stems. However, the amount of metal secreted still wasn't much more than when I planted them before. In the soil, there were also 4 glowing mutant seeds, about the size of potatoes, but showing no signs of sprouting. From the wall beside me, a pair of metallic hands deftly reached out, dug up the 7 pale green seeds, and placed them in my hands. These hands appeared after the Mutant Plant Research Institute was formed. Their creation process was quite similar to the mobile base's shadow butler, but at a much lower level. It was just a dedicated butler for the Institute, not a living creature. It only had 2 metallic hands, but it gave off a very human feel. Mutant thorn seeds successfully cultivated. Level 1. Capable of automatic capture. Thorns contain paralyzing toxins. Drought-resistant, adapts to alkaline soil, and can survive without water for 180 days. Next evolutionary path requires more mutant energy and rare metals. I was overjoyed. If these plants were buried underground as traps, they would be incredibly useful, capable of both capturing and paralyzing. An ordinary person hit by them would be severely injured if not dead. Even an evolver would be in huge trouble if caught off guard. With this, I had another new source of power. If I continued to cultivate and evolve them in the future, they could absolutely grow to a massive size, hiding deep underground to launch surprise attacks, even killing mutant beasts. What are the evolutionary paths for those 4 mutant seeds, and what do they need? I asked carefully. Preliminary evolutionary paths for the mutant seeds include 2 options: secreting chameleon liquid or explosive fruits. I pondered for a moment. These 4 seeds were originally taken from the stomach of a mutant stray cat, so their composition was indeed complex. Choose the explosive fruit evolutionary path. I quickly made my decision. In the apocalypse, supplies were getting harder to find. If I could grow explosive fruits, I wouldn't have to worry about fuel for the mobile base anymore. And why are the mutant cotton plants developing unstably? Is it because the soil isn't suitable? I looked toward the mutant cotton plants I had planted before, the type that could secrete active metal. After dinner, I was in such high spirits that I stayed in the Mutant Plant Research Institute for a long time. Right now, the number of mutant plants was still small, but later, when I collected more, I could cultivate all kinds of them. From fuel-producing plants to hunting vines, to plants that secrete special metals. These mutant plants would definitely help me build a massive foundation of power in the apocalyptic era. The next morning, after only a short nap, I received a notice from Xiao Qi to head to the gate at noon to set out. Everyone in the scurrying squad had heard about my cooperation with the Doomsday Beggars. Everyone coordinated perfectly and quickly got ready. By noon, our bus roared out of the Heiyuan Safe Zone's main gate. As soon as we got out, I saw the main gate packed with trucks, off-road vehicles, and modified motorcycles lined up. With just a glance, I could sense hundreds of evolvers. I couldn't help but be amazed. Heiyuan's potential was truly unfathomable. In other places, evolvers were rare, but here they were so numerous. Captain Jiang, we're over here. About 100 meters away, near the 10th quarantine station, a large convoy was parked. Xiao Qi sat on a truck, waving at us. What the hell is Xiao Qi doing? It's just a newly arrived C-rank squad. Is there a need to suck up to them? On the truck next to him, Xing Bupo curled his lip. Ever since I shoved a gun in his mouth yesterday and humiliated him in front of everyone, he had been holding a grudge. Xing Bupo, stop running your mouth behind people's backs. If you're not convinced, let's compare on the battlefield. Ling Feng poked his head out of Xiao Qi's truck, his voice stern and cold. Ling Feng, even you're acting as a lapdog for this new squad. Xing Bupo sneered, spitting outside. Ling Feng just snorted coldly, not bothering to pay him any more attention. At this time, my bus had already entered Ling Feng's formation. With a screeching halt, a modified armored vehicle rushed over, stopping right next to my bus. Wang Chuanfu, Zhiliang, and 12 others jumped down from the off-road vehicle, all wearing tight black combat suits. A few wore military green t-shirts, clearly exuding the sharp aura of seasoned soldiers. Amidst the blizzard, they stood straight as arrows, heat rising from their bodies, their presence incredibly strong. Brother Jiang. As soon as Zhiliang saw me step off the bus, his eyes lit up with a smile, but his gaze was full of curiosity and excitement as it glued to the bus behind me. Captain Wang, is this the modified vehicle you were talking about? You made it sound so amazing, but it doesn't look like anything special from the outside. Wang Chuanfu had witnessed my bus transform into a mining vehicle with his own eyes and was extremely impressed, having bragged about it to Zhiliang and the others many times. Because of that, Zhiliang had long wanted to see this legendary vehicle for himself. But before Zhiliang could even touch the vehicle, a pitch-black gun barrel poked out from the cockpit. Ing, with a face as cold as ice, poked her head out, aiming the gun straight at Zhiliang's head without hesitation. Her only mission was to protect the mobile base and protect me. Naturally, she wouldn't allow strangers to touch it casually. In Ying's eyes, Zhiliang's action was an act of hostility toward the mobile base. With a gun pointed right at his head, Zhiliang's scalp instantly went numb, freezing in place. My squad member doesn't like others touching this vehicle. I smiled faintly. Zhiliang quickly backed up a few steps, still looking at him in shock, before the window closed and the gun disappeared. She's beautiful, but a bit fierce, Zhiliang muttered, glancing toward the cockpit. Captain Jiang, these are all members of the Fengshan squad from the Zhonghai safe zone. Hearing me talk about the Shuriying squad in Heiyuan, everyone was excited to meet you. Wang Chuanfu introduced them while smiling at me. Captain Jiang, I've met you before, back when you were in the Longyue squad. A Fengshan member wearing a military green t-shirt said excitedly. The others also gathered around me, the atmosphere livening up. For elite survivor squads, what they respected the most was the strength of the government military. And I was rumored to be the guy who infiltrated a military zone, killed a high-ranking official, and retreated in one piece. How could they not be thrilled? Most of them had never met me, only hearing the legends of the Shuriying squad, which made the name even more mythical. Is the Fengshan squad out of their minds? Crowding around a newly arrived squad to kiss their asses. I thought this guy was something special, but it turns out he just relies on that flimsy bus. Xing Bupo watched the scene unfold, feeling annoyed. In the apocalypse, an elite squad's vehicle was also a symbol of strength. Since my bus looked too fragile, the first impression wasn't good, so it wasn't surprising he thought that way. Xing Bupo glanced at the young man sitting in the same car as him. This person had a calm aura and deep eyes. Since getting in the car, he hadn't said a word, just resting with his eyes closed, flanked by a few arrogant-looking evolvers. Captain Sure, no matter what, my Zhangzhou Gray squad only recognizes you as the leader. You're also the only B-rank squad among us. The success or failure of this mission all depends on you, Xing Bupo said. Captain Sure didn't reply, nor did he show any expression. He just stood up, walked to the back of the vehicle, and looked down at the crowd below. Stop talking. Move out immediately. This time we're doing 2 level 3 missions at once. His voice was deep, carrying a strange magnetism. His gaze swept over me and paused for a few seconds. You're the captain of the new Shuriying squad. The chairman told me before we left that we have to coordinate with you guys. I don't understand why the chairman trusts such a new squad, but no matter how strong you used to be, in this mission, if you're a dragon, you coil up. If you're a tiger, you lay down. If you want me to believe in you, show your full strength in combat. I'll be watching. In the other vehicles, many elite members of the Doomsday Beggars also looked at me curiously. They had heard about me blowing off Huang Hai's leg and felt very satisfied, but the Shuriying squad was still just a beginner squad. Yet we were being treated as equals to over 10 other squads, which made quite a few people uncomfortable. Zhiliang frowned, about to react, but Wang Chuanfu pulled him back. I just smiled. No problem. I clearly understood the provocation in Captain Shure's words, but I didn't care. In the apocalypse, the strong only believed in strength. Move out. Seeing that I didn't object, Captain Shure immediately waved his hand to give the order. The Doomsday Beggars convoy hadn't gone far before another large convoy quietly tailed them, their route completely identical. In the 2 level 3 reclamation order missions the Doomsday Beggars took this time. One mission was to hunt down a B-rank elite survivor squad that had fled into an area known as Boulder Ridge. This B-rank squad was led by a guy named Gonyang. They used to be a very prominent squad in the 5th channel. But out of sheer greed, he hijacked a military convoy transporting supplies. The convoy had few soldiers, so they were quickly wiped out by him. Everyone was killed, leaving no survivors. Gonyang thought he had done it flawlessly, but he didn't expect that a subordinate he had exploited and oppressed for a long time. Fearing implication when the truth came out, took the initiative to report him to the government military. From then on, Gonyang's squad became a wanted target. Gonyang himself had incredibly sharp instincts and a special sense of smell, able to sniff out danger from far away and escape immediately. This caused the level 3 mission to hang for a long time without any squad completing it. Some squads were even led into traps by him and disappeared, never to return. This time, the Doomsday Beggars decided to go almost all out to eliminate Gonyang. The other level 3 mission was in the Shangjia village area, not far from Boulder Ridge, which used to be an evacuation route for scientists and technicians at the beginning of the apocalypse. Back then, a convoy went missing there. Rumor had it they were ambushed by a zombie horde. The government issued this mission hoping to find the convoy's remains and recover any scientific documents left behind, because there were quite a few important scientists in that convoy. As the convoy approached Boulder Ridge, the lead vehicle suddenly stopped. In my line of sight, a few kilometers away, was an area of highly eroded limestone terrain. Countless sharp rock pillars shot up like giant bamboo shoots, stretching for over 10 miles. The blizzard had stopped, and visibility was excellent. The entire area was clearly visible. A place like this was truly a paradise for hiding. This place used to be a tourist attraction, but now it only distinguished between safe and dangerous. Dismount. This time we have a total of 15 squads, 147 people. Each squad gets half a bottle of powder. Scatter it evenly within a 1-kilometer radius around Boulder Ridge. You have 1 hour. Shirzan brought down 2 large wooden crates, taking out bottles of red powder one by one. What is this stuff? Zhiliang asked curiously. A stimulant powder made by the military. It contains many different scents and disperses extremely easily. Gonyang's strongest ability is his sense of smell. We are currently 7 or 8 kilometers away from him, which is a safe distance. When we surround the area and scatter this powder, his sense of smell will be completely disrupted. Catching him will be as easy as flipping a hand. Shirzan explained. Captain, you've prepared too well. Gonyang is definitely dead this time. Xing Bupo stood to the side, constantly kissing up. Shirzan ignored him, shifting his gaze to me. Captain Jiang, what do you think? Any opinions? He appeared polite on the surface, but a flash of impatience crossed his eyes. He clearly didn't want to waste any more time. I rubbed my nose. Do you want to hear the truth, or a joke? Shirzan's face instantly darkened. Now is not the time for jokes. Then I'll tell the truth. This method is a complete waste of time, I replied nonchalantly. As soon as the words left my mouth, the surroundings fell dead silent. The atmosphere instantly tensed up. Jiang, how the hell are you talking? Are you trying to pick a fight? Xing Bupo said coldly, but a look of anticipation flashed in his eyes. Quite a few dissatisfied gazes turned toward me. Even though my squad was newly introduced by the chairman, publicly contradicting Shirzan still made the veteran squads of Heiyuan feel insulted. The corner of Shirzan's eye twitched slightly. He had given me a lot of face by asking for my opinion, but clearly, someone didn't know what was good for them. Tell me, why is it a waste of time? Shirzan asked, suppressing his anger, his voice full of pressure. The members of the Fengshan squad stared at me intently, not out of doubt, but curiosity, because they hadn't thought of a better way to catch Gonyang either. I looked up at the sky, my expression a bit strange. See that? There's a pigeon flying up there. Xing Bupo froze, then burst out laughing. Are you blind? There are no birds in this weather. And even if there were, what the hell does it have to do with our operation? In the blizzard, the sky was gloomy and visibility was limited. Xing Bupo looked up for a long time, but couldn't even see a single feather. The others also laughed, thinking I was talking nonsense. Are you messing with me? Shirzan roared, veins popping on his neck. In the very next second, I whipped open my coat, pulled out my AWM sniper rifle, aimed at the sky, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out. I simultaneously dashed forward, my speed so fast that in just a few breaths I crossed over 10 meters, reaching out to catch the thing that had just fallen. In my hand was a bloody bird's eye. The rest of the bird had been pulverized by the bullet in midair. From the moment I fired to when I caught the eye, everything happened in the blink of an eye. All the people from the Doomsday Beggars were stunned, their eyes looking at me full of shock. That shot just now truly shook all of them. None of them had seen the bird in the blizzard, let alone drawing a gun to shoot it down and retrieving its eye. I could feel it very clearly. Within this bird's eye existed an extremely weak wave of energy, so weak that if you didn't pay close attention, it was almost impossible to detect. I tossed the bird's eye to Shirzan. He took it doubtfully, and very quickly, he also felt that faint wave of energy. I'm guessing the government's files are incomplete. In Gonyang's squad, he's not the only one with an abnormal sense of smell. There's also someone who can use their ability to control small birds for reconnaissance. Therefore, Even if the chemical powder can disrupt Gonyang's sense of smell, in reality, we were exposed to those scout birds a long time ago. As soon as I finished speaking, the surrounding atmosphere immediately sank. No one expected that Shirzan's elaborate plan would be ruined by a truth that none of them knew about. Everyone looked at each other, hesitation and vigilance revealing in their eyes, realizing that perhaps they had trusted the initial plan too much and overlooked other variables. The evolvers of the Doomsday Beggars squad, who were originally confident in their experience, now felt their pride shaken by my sharpness. Even Shirzan, after his initial anger, was forced to reconsider. He understood that if they didn't account for this factor, they would fall into a passive position. "So what do you think we should do?" Shirzan asked, his voice now lowered. The anger was gone, leaving only caution. "We have to find the person controlling those birds. Otherwise, all our actions will be monitored. First, let me handle this." In the Boulder Ridge area, the small path was covered by reeds and vines, melting snow dripping continuously. A motorcycle squad was hiding in an open clearing amidst the stone forest, the campfire beside them completely extinguished by the blizzard. A skinny man stood motionless in the snowy wind, snow covering his shoulders. He looked up at the sky, his eyes showing only the whites. A faint energy spread out, and his mind reflected all activities within a radius of several dozen kilometers. "The intel from Blackwater wasn't wrong, boss. There really is a convoy approaching, and a lot of them. They've gotten out of their vehicles. Looks like they're carrying some bottles. Damn it, I curse them." He suddenly screamed, clutching his eyes tightly. Blood dripped down his fingers, his body trembling violently. "Du Niao, what's wrong?" Gonyang immediately jumped off his bike and held him tight. "Someone shot down the bird I released. My ability is damaged." It was a young man. Du Niao groaned in pain. The moment the bird was shot down, he clearly saw the young man holding the gun standing in the blizzard. Gonyang frowned. His squad had escaped the pursuit of elite squads many times precisely thanks to Du Niao's mutated eyes, combined with his own terrifying sense of smell. Now that Du Niao was injured, the squad's reconnaissance capability was essentially cut in half. "How many vehicles?" Gonyang asked directly. 8 large trucks, 1 armored vehicle, 1 bus, and 3 to 4 modified motorcycles, Du Niao answered, trembling. Gonyang's heart sank. Just looking at that formation was enough to know this was an extremely terrifying force, at least over 100 people. A massive guy next to him activated his ability, transforming into a giant brown bear, and said in a deep voice that they couldn't fight them and had to retreat immediately. But right at that moment, the radio in Gonyang's pocket crackled with static. He immediately listened and decoded the cipher. The result left him stunned. They told them to stay in Boulder Ridge, saying they would personally take action this time, so don't run. We're staying. Blackwater's people are almost here. 7 or 8 kilometers away from Boulder Ridge, the Doomsday Beggars convoy stopped in the blizzard. Shirzan asked me how I spotted the bird and knew it was controlled by an ability. I just answered briefly, "Can't disclose that." I had no reason to reveal things related to my squad's abilities, because between them and me, it was just cooperation. Shirzan tried to suppress his anger. Zhiliang kept showing his admiration, clinging to me and asking questions, until Wang Chuanfu pulled him away by the arm. Shirzan suggested splitting the squads to block the 3 exits of the stone forest, but I rejected it. I said we had to scout first. They should follow closely behind us. If we confirmed the enemy had retreated, I would chase them eastward, while they pressed in from the west. That would save time. Just with this bus? Shirzan couldn't help but mock, asking how I was going to scout when my vehicle moved as slow as a turtle. "No need to worry about that," I said, then turned and got on the bus. Just as the other vehicles started up, my bus suddenly roared and shot forward like lightning. Its speed rivaled a race car, leaving them hundreds of meters behind in the blink of an eye. No slipping, no shaking. The faster it ran on the ice and snow, the more stable it became. "Hurry up and chase them." Shirzan gritted his teeth, his face darkening. Xing Bupo was speechless, not daring to say another word. As for me, I just kept heading straight for the Boulder Ridge stone forest. I drove the mobile base, speeding across the snowfield. Snow billowed behind us, and soon, we were closing in on the dense stone forest. The terrain started to get rough. Even though it was covered in snow, the bumps still made the bus's large tires bounce uncomfortably. Fortunately, the bulletproof tires had been upgraded, and the suspension system worked perfectly. Even though the vehicle's body swayed up and down, the cabin inside maintained the necessary stability. Rin Xiu had already released her mental waves outside. Waves rippled out like flowing water, covering the entire stone forest. Very quickly, her voice echoed in my ears, carrying a hint of tension. I sensed them. I didn't reply, just focused on the red glowing dots Xiu shared from her scan results. They're deep in the stone forest, about a kilometer away from us. 5 evolvers, 12 ordinary people. I was slightly surprised. That was clearly Gongyang's squad. Initially, my thoughts were the same as Shirzan's. With Gongyang's cautious nature, upon discovering a large army approaching, he should have retreated immediately. The government's files also clearly stated that Gongyang was someone who always prioritized safety and absolutely never took risks. Yet now, his squad was staying put in the stone forest. Interesting, I chuckled softly. Within the range of the mental scan, I saw Gongyang's squad moving in circles, carefully evading, clearly with no intention of running away. So what were they waiting for? Luring us into a trap? Where did their confidence come from? Not long after, the convoy of heavy trucks behind us also rumbled to a halt. The tires kicked up snow. Shirzan jumped down, looking at me with a cold expression. Normally, to scout, one had to go deep into the stone forest, but I just stopped the vehicle right there. This made him uncomfortable. I said bluntly, no need to scout anymore. Gongyang's squad is in there. Our vehicle can't enter the stone forest, so we waited for you guys to arrive to go in together. The stone forest was too narrow. Aside from motorcycles, 4-wheeled vehicles had almost no room to maneuver. More importantly, if I left the mobile base, I would lose my biggest advantage. I didn't want to take risks. Even though I believed the Shuriying squad was strong enough to take down Gongyang's squad, this forest had too many nooks and crannies. What we lacked wasn't strength, but manpower. Xing Bupo stood to the side, sneering, asking how I knew for sure Gongyang's squad was in there. Did I open my third eye? His voice was full of sarcasm. Normally, even a mental evolver couldn't scan the entire stone forest. At most, they could only probe a small section. Zhang Hai immediately lost his temper, glaring at Xing Bupo, saying that if Brother Jiang said there were people in there, then there definitely were. If he didn't believe it, he could lead his squad in to check for himself. The atmosphere instantly grew tense. The guys on Xing Bupo's side also stepped forward, crossing their arms, muscles bulging, facing off against Zhang Hai and Sun Quan. The other squads of the Doomsday Beggars just watched, their eyes full of amusement. No one intended to intervene. Seeing that, I frowned slightly. The internal structure of this organization was clearly not united at all. Zhiliang spat out the grass in his mouth, standing in front of Xing Bupo, loudly declaring that he had been sick of him for a long time. Daring to doubt me meant he wasn't even fit to carry my shoes. Before he could finish, someone covered his mouth and dragged him away. Wang Chuanfu's face turned pale, and he hurriedly apologized to me. There were some things that absolutely couldn't be said out loud, especially anything related to Zhonghai. Once it fell into the hands of the Heiyuan government, the consequences would be very troublesome. Xing Bupo watched the scene, suspicion growing in his heart. Did the Fengshan squad from Zhonghai really respect me this much? A beginner squad needed to be feared this much? He snorted coldly, saying that if we were so strong, we should go inside and prove it. As long as we caught Gongyang's squad, he would apologize on the spot. He was clearly applying pressure. I couldn't care less. His apology held no value to me. Shirzan spoke up at this moment, saying that if I wanted, I could pick 2 squads to go in with me. I glanced at him, knowing full well he wanted me to run into some trouble to take down my arrogance. I smiled faintly and asked directly, "Who wants to go with us?" No one answered. The squads were either whispering or playing with their guns, clearly siding with Xing Bupo. At this moment, Wang Chuanfu stepped out, saying the Fengshan squad would go in with me. Ling Feng also spoke up, but I shook my head, saying the Fengshan squad was enough. I quickly made arrangements. Ying and the mobile base would stay outside. Li Yusin would take care of Jiang Zhuiying on the bus. If anything happened, Ying could react immediately. I led 0, Zhang Hai, Sun Kuan, Rin Xiu, and the Fengshan squad deep into the stone forest without hesitation. Watching our backs disappear, Xing Bupo laughed disdainfully, saying that going into the stone forest was just courting death. In the past, quite a few B-rank squads had been ambushed and wiped out by Gongyang's squad here. The others also nodded in secret agreement. Shirzan spoke up, telling everyone to talk less. If something happened inside, they would go in to rescue us. On the surface, he seemed concerned, but in his heart, he was also waiting for us to run into trouble so he could step in and save us, thereby establishing his authority. Inside the stone forest, the snow was thigh-deep, but the plants and vines still grew wildly. The light was blocked by the stone pillars and canopy, making the space gloomy and cold. This was the second time Xiu had followed me out on a mission. Amidst the freezing world, her heart warmed up, remembering the stormy night in Shuangwu County when I carried her up the mountain. Thinking of that, her face flushed red. Right at that moment, I asked if she was tired, and if she wasn't feeling well, I could carry her. She froze for a moment, shaking her head and saying there was no need. I didn't wait for her to object, directly hoisting her onto my back, saying the whole squad was relying on her scanning ability, so she had to save her strength. Xiu didn't say anything more, just gently rested her hands on my shoulders. With my current stamina, carrying her was no effort at all. Very quickly, her voice echoed in my head again. Gongyang's squad is starting to move. Gongyang must have caught our scent. I observed the enemy's movement direction and gave a low command. If they circle around us, we circle around them. Head east. The whole squad responded in unison. Under my lead, we moved continuously, constantly changing directions, but strangely, we still hadn't encountered Gongyang's squad. After a while, I threw a handful of seeds onto the ground. Along the way, I had scattered a total of 7 seeds. As soon as they touched the snow, they took root and sprouted, draining the nutrients around them. Under the snow, thorny bushes spread out, looking ordinary but full of danger. I warned everyone not to get close. These were mutant thorn seeds developed by the Mutant Plant Research Institute, originally grown from the stomach of a mutant beast, extremely dangerous. Zhiliang looked at the thorny bushes, unable to hold back his question, asking what I was scattering these things for. I observed the bare stone pillars around us and said slowly, "This place is the best spot for an ambush. Gongyang is definitely familiar with our movement route." The stone pillar forest was quite spacious, with many large pillars big enough to hide people behind without easily being discovered. Within the range of Xiu's mental scan, Gongyang's squad had closed in from behind without any hesitation. It was just that because the Fengshan squad moved cautiously and was familiar with the terrain, no one had noticed any movement yet. Zhiliang still asked in confusion what I meant. I didn't explain, just said, "Let's go," and continued walking forward. Despite their confusion, the Fengshan squad immediately followed orders and moved. Not long after we left, rustling sounds echoed from behind. A guy with bloodshot eyes sneaked out to observe, then signaled his teammates. Right after, Gongyang's entire squad appeared. They weren't riding motorcycles, but moving on foot, each wearing a black military backpack. One guy smiled gleefully, saying this bunch was truly stupid, bringing a bunch of rookies to their deaths. If they charged deep into the stone forest, they'd only have the option to run away. Gongyang also laughed freely, saying they were indeed rookies, walking in a repeating loop. The guy leading the squad was clearly directionally challenged. They'll definitely come back in a bit. When they do, we just plant mines and blow them to pieces, and that'll be that. Initially, he was still cautious, but seeing us walk in circles along a fixed route, clearly lost due to the terrain, he was completely at ease. In his backpack were homemade landmines, the very things that helped him wipe out 3 B-rank squads. Looking at the stone pillars perfect for an ambush, Gongyang's smile grew even more sinister. He ordered them to spread out and plant the mines, aiming to kill everyone in one go. Just one explosion, and that group would fall into chaos, followed by a series of booms echoing through the stone forest. Gongyang and 2 teammates headed left. One guy was scraping away the snow to plant a mine when he froze, noticing thorny bushes under the snow. He reached out to pull them up, but the moment he touched them, the green thorns instantly grew wildly, radiating energy. In the blink of an eye, His hand was pierced through, his arm paralyzed. The thought, "It's poisonous," had just flashed through his mind when the thorny bushes erupted from the ground, massive green vines lunging at him like venomous snakes. Countless thorns pierced through him, tearing his body apart. His blood and mutant energy were rapidly drained dry. In just a few seconds, he was reduced to a dry skeleton. Gonyang backed away in terror. What kind of plant kills an evolver in an instant and drains their blood? Miserable screams rang out one after another. 2. Then 3 more people were swallowed by the thorny bushes. In the blink of an eye, his squad had lost 5 people, including evolvers. Not good. Amidst the panic, Gonyang forced himself to calm down. He suddenly smelled a pungent stench carried by the wind from over 200 meters away. His sense of smell, many times sharper than a hound's, caused him excruciating pain. He screamed for them to retreat immediately. Right at that moment, from behind the stone pillars ahead, my squad charged out. I took the lead, sniper rifle in hand, with Shiyu by my side. I looked at Gonyang's squad in chaos and frowned slightly. I had overestimated them. A massive evolver, built like an ape, roared and charged at me. A gunshot rang out, the shell casing popping out of the chamber. The guy was torn in half. A second shot rang out. Another evolver who had transformed into a cheetah and was running away had his head blown off in midair. The blood in Gonyang's veins ran cold. A sniper. Even if it was an ordinary person, in the hands of a skilled sniper, an evolver was just a target. Out of his 5 evolvers, 1 was injured, 1 died to the thorny bushes, 2 had their heads blown off, and now only he was left. Before he could react, my squad had already rushed in. 14 evolvers completely overwhelmed them. The survivors, even if they resisted, were quickly killed. Gonyang was so terrified he slumped to the ground, raising his hands and begging for mercy, saying he was Gonyang, "Please don't shoot." He felt like he was dreaming. Everything had collapsed too fast. Zhiliang walked up, saying this squad was too weak. He could have crushed them even without my support. Wang Chuanfu immediately scolded him sternly, saying that if I hadn't deliberately walked in circles to misdirect them, used the thorny bushes to cause chaos, and chosen the right wind direction to scatter the irritating chemicals, how could they have won so easily? Hearing that, Gonyang looked at me trembling, full of both hatred and fear. It turned out that from the moment we stepped into the stone forest, the trap had been set step by step, while he thought the enemy was lost. He shuddered, asking how I knew his every move so clearly. Right at that moment, Shiyu's soft voice echoed in his head. Mental ability. Gonyang's face turned pale as a sheet, and he collapsed. He was utterly defeated. When Shiyu frowned and reported to me that many people were rapidly approaching us, Zhiliang walked over holding iron chains. Hearing that, Gonyang's eyes lit up, saying it must be the Black Water Organization arriving. I understood now. No wonder they didn't run. It turned out they were luring us into a trap, waiting for black water to surround us. But even if they come, you guys aren't getting away. I will definitely complete this level 3 reclamation order mission. Shanghai brought the iron chains over to tie him up. Gonyang panicked and begged, saying he knew many of Blackwater's secrets and could sell them to the Heiyuan military. But a vicious glint flashed in his eyes. He suddenly sprang up, horns growing from his forehead, and lunged at me. At that exact moment, his mind was struck hard, paralyzing his entire body. Shiyu warned him coldly that all his emotions were under her control. A gunshot rang out, and Gonyang's left leg was blown to pieces. I pointed a Type 54 pistol at his head, saying that if he didn't behave, the next bullet would blow his head off. The Heiyuan military wouldn't mind receiving a corpse. It was just a bit messy. I said bluntly that the secrets he claimed to have about Blackwater were just about them hiring him to hijack the military convoy, and I didn't want to get involved. Gonyang's face turned ashen. He knew he was at a dead end. The remaining members of his squad didn't dare move an inch. Wang Chuanfu stepped up, asking where the motorcycles and supplies were hidden, then kicked one of the guys away. The Fengshen squad and Zhang Hai started searching, quickly heading deeper into the stone forest to retrieve the supplies. Right at that moment, intense gunfire echoed from outside. Boom, boom. A series of violent explosions rang out from outside. Gunpowder smoke billowed up, and the ground shook. The battle had officially broken out. The Blackwater organization had opened fire, engaging in a direct clash with the Doomsday Beggars squad. I frowned slightly. Just hearing the commotion was enough to know the fight outside was fierce. Right then, Zhang Hai and a few others rode over on motorcycles. Those motorcycles all belonged to Gonyang's squad, 11 in total. Hanging on the back of each bike were 2 long military green bags, bulging with supplies. Zhang Hai jumped off, marveling. Over 30 guns, 5 crates of ammo, 7 Tier 1 mutant crystal cores, and a ton of medical supplies and canned food. They're really loaded. He excitedly told me there were even 100 rounds of sniper ammo. My eyes lit up. This was definitely good news. It had been a long time since I replenished my ammo. This amount was enough to keep me worry-free for a long while. The 7 Tier 1 mutant crystal cores came at the perfect time, as my hands were currently completely empty. It was just a pity there were no Tier 2 crystal cores, otherwise I could have upgraded the mobile base. Everyone in the Fengshan squad was thrilled. This pile of supplies was a massive haul. I gathered everything on the snow and told Wang Chuanfu straight up that I was taking the mutant crystal cores and the sniper ammo. The rest of the guns and ammo would be distributed to them. Wang Chuanfu smiled and nodded. He said they barely had to do anything and had already taken too much advantage. However I divided it, they felt they were profiting. The others in the Fengshan squad also smiled brightly. Gonyang's squad had fallen into chaos on their own according to my setup, and in the end, they only had to clean up a few survivors. It was truly an easy mission with a massive harvest. Following me was clearly the right choice for them. I looked at Wang Chuanfu, knowing full well that from now on, he'd only want to follow my orders during missions, rather than trying to act like my equal or buddy. Zhi Liang stood to the side, grinning from ear to ear. He was dying to go out and see the look on Jiang Bupo's face right now, telling everyone to search thoroughly and not leave a single scrap for him. The others burst into laughter, telling him not to worry and guaranteeing they wouldn't miss a thing. After dividing the supplies, Gonyang was tied up, his face ashen. He had risked his life to plunder, becoming a wanted man in the Heiyuan safe zone, only to end up as my spoils of war. I carefully pocketed the 7 crystal cores, coldly ordered him to be tied up, and walked out. Outside the stone forest, the battle was still incredibly fierce. The Doomsday Beggars' front line was riddled with bomb craters. A heavy truck had been blown up, blazing in a sea of fire. The remaining vehicles were lined up as a barricade, but their reinforced steel was still being pierced by bullets. Quite a few people had collapsed in pools of blood. Opposite them were over 20 heavy trucks from the Blackwater organization lined up horizontally, with rifle barrels poking out from behind each one. In the apocalypse, large-scale gunfights were rare because the losses were too great, but Blackwater and the Doomsday Beggars were both major factions in Channel 5. Blackwater, in particular, had killed over a dozen Doomsday Beggars with their first volley of grenades, including awakened ones. By the time the other side regained their senses, they were already caught in a pincer movement. Further out, Blackwater's off-road vehicles were moving in to encircle them, packed with elites. One glance was enough for me to understand. They had come fully prepared. Jiang Bupo hid behind a truck, his face blackened and covered in wounds, cursing through gritted teeth at how Blackwater had managed to pinpoint their exact location. A grenade just now had nearly taken his life. Shirzan stood nearby, his face dark, stating that they had clearly walked into a trap and that Gonyang's team was just bait. The Doomsday Beggars' firepower was completely inadequate compared to Blackwater's, and their ammo was more than half depleted. Shirzan suddenly glanced toward the stone forest, thinking of me, but Jiang Bupo just snorted in contempt, assuming I had already been taken out by Gonyang's team. Shirzan didn't reply, his eyes turning cold. Right at that moment, the gunfire from the opposite side ceased completely. A voice rang out, calling for the Doomsday Beggars to surrender, boasting that Blackwater had over 100 awakened and overwhelming firepower. The tarps on the trucks were pulled back, revealing the crates of ammunition inside. Ling Feng recognized the speaker as Tang Changyang, a petty and extremely dangerous enemy. Tang Changyang was incredibly smug right now. Behind him sat a figure in the shadows. He didn't say a word, but his gaze was as sharp as lightning, striking fear and respect into all the surrounding awakened. With this person here, he was absolutely certain the Doomsday Beggars had no way out. He scanned the area for my team, sneering as he asked where those arrogant brats had gone. The Doomsday Beggars immediately started whispering among themselves, but everyone knew that even if they handed me over, they wouldn't be spared either. Just then, someone holding a white cloth stepped forward. It was Jiang Bupo. He trembled as he said that as long as Blackwater spared them, he would hand me over, making it clear that I was in the stone forest behind them. Tang Changyang was slightly surprised, then broke into a disdainful smile. Selling out teammates, what a bunch of useless trash. Shirzan was furious and yelled at Jiang Bupo to get back. Even if he had conflicts with me, selling out a teammate was something he absolutely could not accept. But before Jiang Bupo could finish his excuses, a gunshot rang out. Jiang Bupo's head exploded right in front of everyone. Blood and brains splattered everywhere as his body collapsed right in front of Tang Changyang. From a distance, my motorcycle squad charged out of the stone forest like a hurricane. I was the one leading the charge. Tang Changyang panicked as he realized I was aiming a sniper rifle straight at him. Scared out of his wits, he immediately leaped back over 7 meters, diving toward the truck. Shirzan furiously shouted my name. He knew full well that I was the one who had just fired. I stopped my motorcycle in front of him, stepped off, and calmly said that we were cooperating, but anyone who tried to sell me out wasn't a friend, they were an enemy. And for enemies, I only have one way of dealing with them. Ling Feng stepped up, angrily stating that he supported my actions. Jiang Bupo was too shameless, and keeping someone like that around was just asking for trouble. As Ling Feng said those words, his gaze intentionally swept over the other captains. He was clearly issuing a warning, making sure no one else got any ideas like Jiang Bupo. Shao Qi stood to the side, smiling happily, feeling incredibly satisfied. He had disliked Jiang Bupo for a long time, and seeing him meet such a miserable end was exactly what he deserved. The other captains remained silent. Some had originally sympathized with Ling Feng's view, but seeing Jiang Bupo's fate, they were all struck with fear, not daring to harbor any treacherous thoughts. Shirzan tried to suppress his anger, glaring at me coldly as he said he would report my actions to the guildmaster. I looked completely unfazed. Jiang Bupo was a veteran of the Doomsday Beggars, after all. Me shooting him dead was practically a direct challenge to Shirzan's authority. But he didn't explode, choosing to endure it for the sake of the bigger picture. I nodded, telling him he could say whatever he wanted to Hodinkuan, but if this happened again, I'd still kill them. With that, I clapped my hands as a signal. The motorcycles roared, and Zhi Liang sped forward, violently kicking someone face first into the snow, Gongyang. Shirzan was stunned when he got a clear look at the man lying in the snow. His expression instantly changed as he looked at me and my companions. We had been in the stone forest for less than half an hour, yet we had already taken down Gongyang's entire team. This was unbelievable. Even a C-rank team coordinating with the B-rank function team couldn't have done it this fast. Gongyang's team had wiped out at least 3 B-rank teams and had the terrain advantage of the complex stone forest. In Shirzan's mind, I was supposed to beg for help before he'd step in, aiding us while simultaneously knocking down our arrogance. He never expected us to complete an impossible mission. The surviving members of Gongyang's team were dragged off the motorcycles one by one and thrown into the snow, piled on top of each other. The 100+ members of the Doomsday Beggars watched in dead silence. The notorious Gongyang team, who even dared to rob military supplies, had actually been taken down. Many looked at me with deep awe. Even though no one saw how I did it, the result alone was enough to make them realize just how dangerous I was. If it weren't for the pressure from the Blackwater organization across from us, there probably would have been cheers. Regardless, the Level 3 reclamation mission was complete. I ignored the stairs, grabbed Gongyang, and leaped onto the roof of a heavy truck. I looked straight at Blackwater's convoy opposite us and coldly called out, "Blackwater, listen up. I have Gongyang. He's spilled all your secrets. Figure out what you want to do about it." Zhi Liang looked up from below the truck, confused, asking what I meant. Wang Chuanfu immediately explained that I was threatening the Blackwater organization. Shirzan stood nearby, shaken to his core. He had never seen anyone dare to provoke Blackwater like this, especially when they were so heavily outnumbered. In his eyes, I was just an ordinary person with no obvious awakened energy fluctuations, at most physically enhanced from eating mutated beast meat. The entire battlefield fell into silence. Tang Changyang poked his head out from the truck, stunned to see Gong Yang held captive on the roof by me, and cursed him for being useless. Gong Yang's team was famous for ambushes and reconnaissance, even capable of advancing to B+ rank, yet they had been captured alive by a C-rank team. Thinking about how Gong Yang knew too many secrets, Tang Changyang's face instantly changed. He panicked, realizing Gong Yang couldn't be allowed to live. Just as he raised his gun to aim, a gunshot rang out. The tire of the truck next to him instantly blew out, causing the vehicle to jolt violently. I coldly warned him that if he dared to fire, I'd shoot him dead on the spot. Even though he was hiding well, his foot was exposed, and the moment his gun peeked out, I fired. Right then, a steady voice came from inside the truck, telling Tang Changyang not to try anything funny. Anyone who could capture Gong Yang that fast was definitely no ordinary person. Tang Changyang froze, calling out, "Brother," but the person inside just said he'd handle it. The next moment, a massive surge of power erupted. A figure shot out like a cannonball, landing right in the middle of the battlefield. The man was very young, bare-chested in the blizzard, his bronze muscles bulging with power. Just standing there made everyone feel a heavy, suffocating pressure. I shared Ren Shiyu's mental vision. In that vision, this person was initially just a red dot, but then flared up into a blazing red flame, even stronger than a level 2 mutated zombie. I was slightly surprised. Tang Chongfei, the guild master of Blackwater. Shirzan stood below the truck, his face darkening completely. Tang Chongfei was a legendary figure in the Heiyuan safe zone. A former military elite, he founded Blackwater after leaving the army. In just 1 month, the organization had become one of the top 3 factions in Channel 5. Dozens of elite teams that had clashed with Tang Chongfei had either vanished or been absorbed. Half the pressure the Doomsday Beggars were currently facing was because they didn't dare provoke this man. No one expected him to show up in person this time. Shirzan warned me in a low voice to get down, saying Tang Chongfei wasn't someone I could mess with, and we couldn't let him take Gong Yang. The others also turned their eyes to me, their feelings complicated. Everyone knew Tang Chongfei would want to kill me first. Even though my shooting Zhang Bupo had upset some people earlier, right now they still hoped I could hold my ground, no matter how slim the chances. Xiao Qi anxiously urged me to get down, saying Tang Chongfei was a level 2 awakened and extremely dangerous. But Zhang Hai, standing nearby, laughed out loud, saying, "So what if he's a level 2 awakened? My boss has already killed one of those." Zhang Hai and Sun Kuan exchanged a grin, brimming with confidence. Chang Shunkai had been a level 2 awakened, yet I had still wiped him out cleanly. In their eyes, I was in no way weaker than a level 2 awakened. Xiao Qi was dumbfounded, asking, "You've killed a level 2 awakened?" I stood on the roof of the truck, feeling the pressure from Tang Chongfei, but my face remained calm. I asked if he was the guild master of Blackwater, then suggested we make a deal. I completely ignored the warnings from below. Tang Chongfei unleashed his awakened energy, the pressure surging, but I didn't flinch. Anyone else would have turned pale with fear, but me? "You want to make a deal?" He just sneered, then suddenly lowered his center of gravity and took a heavy step forward. The ground caved in, his body pulling taut like a bowstring. His muscles bulged, a strange light flowing over him as the snow around him was blasted away. He looked up, his gaze sharp as lightning, locking straight onto me. I stared right back. Our eyes met, and a fierce, savage battle intent flared up. I instantly understood his plan. He wanted to take Gong Yang by force. Did he think it would be that easy? My pupils slightly contracted. This was my first time facing a level 2 awakened head-on. Was he really that confident in his strength? In that split second, every nerve in my brain pulled taut, reaching an unprecedented level of focus. Every movement around me, even the falling snowflakes, slowed down in my vision. I could even see individual snow crystals clearly. Everything seemed to be dragged into slow motion. The blood in my veins surged. With a flick of my wrist, the sniper rifle in my hands tracked him as fast as a phantom. To the onlookers, my arm was just a blur, but the barrel was already aimed dead center at Tang Chongfei, as if guided by an invisible hand. The timing was absolutely perfect, right as he prepared to leap up. Tang Chongfei froze for a split second. Too fast. He had been supremely confident in his speed. Against a normal marksman, he could easily move so fast they wouldn't even have time to react. But the gun in my hands kept up with his movements, instantly locking onto his attack trajectory. I knew, and he knew, that the moment he jumped, the bullet would hit him. You think you're faster than me? A vicious glint flashed across Tang Chongfei's face. He felt provoked. Tang Chongfei was a battle maniac. The only thing he pursued was power. Anything that could make him stronger would ignite his will to fight. Right now, my daring to face him head-on had turned me into a must-kill target in his eyes. The air around Tang Chongfei suddenly churned violently. Snow swirled into the air, and his aura skyrocketed. He maintained his ready-to-pounce stance, but his feet glided laterally across the ground, leaving behind a trail of afterimages. It felt like every single afterimage could lunge forward and tear me to shreds. The members of the Doomsday Beggars stared wide-eyed at the scene. This wasn't an illusion. It was because his speed was so fast that human vision couldn't keep up. It proved that Tang Chongfei's speed had far surpassed the limits of the naked eye. I felt my eyes starting to strain. My nerves were stretched to their absolute limit, but I still tracked his every move, even as I realized he was moving even faster than before. This speed far exceeded any pre-apocalypse sprinting champion, even surpassing a cheetah. At this speed, an enemy would be dead before they could even react. Is this the power of a level 2 awakened? Even my enhanced vision was feeling the fatigue. I knew full well I couldn't maintain this state for long. If this dragged on, my mental energy would be drained dry. Physically, even though my body had been genetically enhanced and evolved quite a bit, the gap between me and a level 2 awakened was still glaringly obvious. Ren Shiyu's voice echoed in my head, filled with anxious warning. The killing intent radiating from Tang Chongfei made even her tremble. I silently replied that I knew. My blood was boiling, every nerve pulled taut, consuming a terrifying amount of stamina, yet the barrel in my hand still tracked his every step. You can still keep up with me? Tang Chongfei finally showed a look of surprise. He realized my eyes were still locked onto his true body. His evolved, hawk-like eyes caught every tiny movement I made, and he knew perfectly well that I was actually seeing him, not the afterimages. Not only that, but my sniper rifle was still aimed exactly where he intended to strike. Behind the truck, Tang Chongyang was losing his patience, not understanding why his brother hadn't rushed up to snatch Gonyang yet. In his eyes, it should have been incredibly easy. At the same time, Zhiliang nervously asked Wang Chuanfu why I hadn't fired yet. Wang Chuanfu frowned, irritably telling Zhiliang to use his brain before asking. With Tang Chongfei's power, I was only barely managing to block his attack paths. Only I could pull off that kind of tracking speed. Anyone else probably wouldn't even catch a glimpse of his shadow. Shirzan stood in silence, goosebumps covering his body. As the strongest person in the Doomsday Beggars, he saw it clearer than anyone. I was strong enough to hold my own against Tang Chongfei, but this level of vision and stamina couldn't be maintained for long. In a prolonged fight, the gap between an ordinary person and a level 2 awakened was still insurmountable. But Tang Chongfei didn't want a war of attrition. A crazed look flashed in his eyes. He laughed out loud, declaring that I was worthy of him going all out to kill. Amidst the howling blizzard, his voice was chillingly clear. Tang Chongyang, behind the truck, was stunned. It had been a very long time since he'd seen his brother this excited. The last time was when he faced an incredibly powerful awakened. Wang Chuanfu took a deep breath, shocked to realize that even at this point, Tang Chongfei still hadn't used his full strength. Zhiliang nervously asked if I could hold on. Wang Chuanfu shook his head, saying I hadn't even played my trump card yet. His eyes flicked toward the transit vehicle behind me, where a pitch-black cannon barrel had quietly emerged at some point. By now, my palms were sweating. I never intended to fight Tang Chongfei head-on. Even with my genetically enhanced body and strength far beyond an ordinary person's, I was still far inferior to a level 2 awakened. From the very beginning, I had calculated everything. Inside the mobile base, the AI system was completely synced with my thoughts. While I used the sniper rifle to test Tang Chongfei, the air cannon had quietly adjusted its firing angle, aiming right at his blind spot. The moment Tang Chongfei actually lunged, he would find the cannon barrel pointed straight at him, and when that happened, he would definitely pay a heavy price. Tang Chongfei felt he had grasped my limits. He believed that if he just increased his speed a little more, he could end it all. But just as he was about to leap, he suddenly shuddered, an invisible sense of danger washing over him. At the same time, Rin Xiu screamed in my head. In her mental vision, about 3 miles away, a massive cluster of red dots was approaching. Among them were 8 or 9 dots with incredibly strong mental intensity, and 4 or 5 that were on par with Tang Chongfei. They were like torches suddenly flaring up in the dark. It could only be a group of awakened, including level 2 awakened. Right after, someone in the Doomsday Beggars shouted, "The military is here." The ground shook violently as over 20 heavy trucks tore through the blizzard like a giant beast. The vehicles were covered in bullet holes, blood, and gore, with frozen mutated beast corpses hanging all over the outside. Over 30 mutated beasts, some so massive they had to be strapped to the roofs. It was an unimaginably massive fortune. The aura accompanying the convoy was suffocating, even from 1,000 meters away. Tang Chongfei, who was about to lunge, stopped dead in his tracks, his eyes sternly watching the approaching military convoy. I felt a twinge of regret. If he had charged, I was 70% sure I could have made him pay. This guy was much stronger than Chang Shenkai. I gave a subtle signal, and the cannon on top of the transit vehicle in the distance immediately retracted. When facing dangerous people like Tang Chongfei, I didn't want to easily reveal my trump card. Once he remembered it and put his guard up, using this air cannon against him in the future would be much harder. The military convoy tore through the wind and snow. Following their normal route, upon reaching this rubble area, they should have turned onto the road skirting the forest to head down the mountain. But on the lead military vehicle, a tall soldier in a black cloak sat atop a mutated beast corpse. The moment he saw the standoff between the Doomsday Beggars and Blackwater, he immediately ordered the entire convoy to change direction and head straight for us. Rumble. Over 20 heavy trucks, radiating overwhelming killing intent, charged over and stopped with absolute precision in the open space between the two factions. Immediately after, soldiers in green military t-shirts, rifles in hand, jumped down from every truck in unison. The awakened energy radiating from them was completely undisguised. They were all awakened soldiers, numbering up to 200. The moment they hit the ground, they deployed into formation, using the trucks as cover, their gun barrels simultaneously aiming at both the Doomsday Beggars and Blackwater. Machine guns were pushed out from the truck beds, and some even shouldered rocket launchers. Such firepower made both sides feel like they were suffocating. Awakened using firearms already surpassed ordinary people in reflexes, mental focus, and accuracy, let alone the fact that these were highly trained soldiers. Coupled with heavy firepower, the tension instantly spiked to the absolute limit. People on both sides didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. A tall figure stood on the roof of a large truck, his cold gaze sweeping over the crowd below, anger flashing in his eyes. He shouted, questioning why the teams were killing each other, reminding them of the Heiyuan safe zone's strict rules against infighting. In the apocalypse, humanity was already scarce, and awakened were strategic resources for fighting zombies and mutated beasts. But at his words, quite a few people in the Doomsday Beggars looked indifferent. Rules were one thing, reality was another. The Heiyuan government almost never intervened in conflicts between freelance awakened teams, even when the military witnessed it firsthand. Therefore, the military actually showing up and stepping into the middle of a battlefield today was an extremely rare occurrence. Even so, many secretly breathed a sigh of relief, because with the military here, Blackwater definitely wouldn't dare to open fire recklessly. Yi Bao, you're as rigid as ever. Tang Chongfei smirked, his gaze sharp as a knife as he looked straight at the man on the truck. Without killing, without experiencing the fear of death, how can awakened evolve quickly? That was exactly why the Heiyuan military rarely interfered in clashes between freelance awakened. Only then did Yi Bao realize the person opposite him was Tang Chongfei. His face darkened, and he immediately jumped off the truck. Boom! His feet slammed into the ground, sending snow flying and cracking the ice. The two stood facing each other, their killing intent clashing, their eyes shooting daggers. Tang Chongfei, you want to fight me again? Yi Bao said coldly. Bring it on. Tang Chongfei took a step forward, almost touching his opponent. It's been a long time since I gave you a good beating. My fists are itching. Seeing the two of them squaring off like ancient beasts, the wind and snow around them were pushed back, and the air seemed to freeze. Yi Bao, Tang Chongfei, stand down. Suddenly, a deep voice echoed from inside one of the large trucks. The moment that voice spoke, Tang Chongfei's expression instantly changed. He turned his head toward the truck, his face turning serious, even showing a hint of apprehension. Both the Doomsday Beggars and Blackwater held their breath. Anyone who could make Tang Chongfei show such an expression was not someone to be underestimated. A strong sense of vigilance rose in my heart. Rin Xiu tried to probe the truck with her mental energy, but it was like dropping a stone into the ocean. That truck was like a black hole, swallowing all mental probes without a trace. A chill ran down my spine. Even when facing the immovable Wisdom King of the Huyang people's front, Rin Xiu's ability still had some effect, but against this person, it was completely useless. Clearly, the captain that Tang Chongfei feared was unimaginably powerful. Tang Chongfei, take your people and leave. The voice from the truck rang out again, not loud, but it overpowered the howling blizzard, carrying an irresistible pressure. Tang Chongfei stood rooted to the spot, silent, not answering immediately. I sense a mental awakened in your team. I don't know who it is. Pass a message to him. Tell him I agree to the deal. I want Gonyang to lose all his memories, unable to reveal any information. That voice suddenly echoed in Ren Xiu's mind. It was Tang Chongfei. She looked at him in shock. A level 2 awakened who could already communicate telepathically. That was truly rare. Ren Xiu immediately relayed everything to me. A faint smile appeared on my face. Originally, I just saw Gonyang as a piece of merchandise with some leftover value, but I didn't expect Tang Chongfei to actually want to make a deal. Ren Xiu, tell him I want 3 level 2 crystal cores. My voice was cold. If we were making a deal, then of course I had to ask for a high price. Besides, the military was right here. If I just publicly exposed Gonyang's secrets, Tang Chongfei would have no other choice. Ren Xiu passed on the message. Tang Chongfei's expression shifted slightly upon hearing it. He seemed unable to understand why an outsider like me would need level 2 crystal cores, especially since they were extremely precious. Not long after, he returned to his truck, and when he stepped out, he had a few items in his hand. Brother Jiang, Tang Chongfei agreed. He told you to force Gonyang's mouth open. I frowned slightly, but still let go and yanked Gonyang's jaw hard. He was already exhausted and couldn't resist. His jaw instantly dislocated, his mouth hanging wide open. Whoosh, whoosh. A few items flew straight toward me. At the same time, a black capsule was thrown right into Gonyang's mouth. I quickly caught the items. Tang Chongfei, what the hell are you doing? Daring to disobey the captain's orders? Yi Bao shouted angrily. The captain had told him to retreat, yet he blatantly pulled a stunt like this. Tang Chongfei just sneered, revealing his sharp, cold white teeth. Nothing. I'm leaving right now. I looked down at the items in my hand. 3 level 2 crystal cores, pulsing with powerful energy. A wave of satisfaction washed over me. Capturing Gonyang and trading him for 3 level 2 crystal cores. This was an incredibly profitable deal. Not just me, but everyone around was stunned. No one expected Tang Chongfei to obediently hand over something so valuable. If this story got out, probably no one would believe it. Brother Jiang, something's wrong with Gonyang. Ren Xiu's voice echoed in my head, very softly. His mind is completely scrambled. He's turned into an idiot. I glanced at Gonyang. His eyes were vacant, his limbs limp, and drool was running down the corner of his mouth. He looked like a total vegetable. That pill was probably some kind of neurotoxin made by Blackwater. In the apocalypse, it wasn't surprising for them to have an awakened who specialized in poisons. Yi Bao stared at me for a long time. This was his first time seeing me. Someone who looked ordinary on the outside, yet had just faced Tang Chongfei head-on and forced him to hand over 3 level 2 crystal cores. Someone like that was absolutely not ordinary. After Blackwater retreated, Yi Bao gave Shirzan a few instructions and quickly left as well. Amidst the howling blizzard, only the Doomsday Beggars remained. Almost everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Captain Shir, should we retreat immediately? What if Blackwater comes back? A skinny middle-aged man asked anxiously. Shirzan glared at him in contempt. Did your balls drop off from fear? If you want to leave, then get lost. The doomsday beggars don't keep cowards. Besides, do they dare to go against the military? That VIP spoke up. Even with 10 lives, Tang Chongfei wouldn't dare disobey. Who is that VIP? Li Yinchong. Just that one name made everyone's expressions change instantly. In Heiyuan, Li Yinchong was the sole exception. The first person to step into the ranks of Level 2 awakened. He had made massive contributions during 2 beast hordes, defeating a Level 2 mutated beast and holding a tunnel for 3 straight hours, buying crucial survival time for the safe zone. He was a hero specially commended by the military and also the captain of the special ops team. Li Yinchong personally stepping in was enough to reassure everyone that there would be no more incidents. Clean up the battlefield. We're heading to Jindong town. Guard Gonyang closely. Shirzan quickly issued orders. His gaze occasionally swept over me, hesitating slightly, but he didn't say anything. I wasn't part of his team, and I didn't need his interference. The convoy quickly set off. In the apocalypse, awakened like us were used to life and death, so once the danger passed, our nerves quickly settled. After all, the Level 3 reclamation mission was complete. On the other side, inside Blackwater's truck, the atmosphere was heavy. Tang Chongyang couldn't help but ask why he didn't just kill me directly. Do you think I'm blind? Tang Chongfei's eyes were sharp and cold. Don't underestimate him. His reflexes and hand speed alone were enough to keep up with me. Those words made Tang Chongyang shudder. He remembered the moment my sniper rifle stayed locked onto his brother's every move. The Shering squad had been severely underestimated. Tang Chongfei leaned against the truck bed, my image flashing in his mind. He had been played today, and he would definitely collect on this debt. After over 3 hours of driving, the doomsday beggars arrived at Jindong town, a small town along the highway, with ruined houses and massive trees tearing through all the structures. It was already dark, the sunset had faded, and the blizzard had stopped. Campfires were lit, and people cooked, roasting salted mutated beast meat. Even if it didn't taste great, in the apocalypse, having food was already a blessing. The teams reported in safe one by one. The area within a 1,000-meter radius had been cleared, and 3 teams were assigned to take turns on guard duty. The mission to recover the scientists' bodies seemed easier than expected. The atmosphere in the team gradually relaxed. While chewing his food, Shirzan glanced toward the back of the convoy. There, my transit vehicle was quietly parked under the awning of an abandoned store. Xiaoqi, take some of this roast meat to the Shering squad. Shirzan thought for a moment, then called Xiaoqi over and handed him a plate of roast meat. Xiaoqi smiled brightly, took it, and happily ran toward my vehicle. He knew perfectly well that this was Shirzan's way of showing goodwill. At the same time, this also proved he had judged the right person. The Shering squad was strong enough that even Shirzan had to take the initiative to curry favor. Previously, when Xiaoqi showed friendliness toward us, quite a few awakened from other teams had mocked him. Some awakened in the doomsday beggars paused their eating, their eyes complex as they watched Xiaoqi head toward the transit vehicle. To be honest, they still couldn't accept me, the guy who had shot Jiang Bupo dead point blank. But the Shering squad's strength made it so no one dared to underestimate us. In just a short half hour, we had captured Gonyang, used him to threaten Tang Chongfei, and even forced a Level 2 awakened to hand over 3 Level 2 crystal cores. That made everyone both terrified and respectful. Perhaps in the near future, maintaining a good relationship with the Shering squad would be the smart choice, unless they wanted to end up like Jiang Bupo. Shirzan also looked over, seeing the transit vehicle's window roll down as I poked my head out to say something to Xiaoqi. Not long after, Xiaoqi returned with a look of shock, and a few extra items had appeared on the plate of meat. Captain, Brother Jiang didn't take the meat. He said they had enough over there, and even gave me some stuff. Xiaoqi looked at the plate of meat, both surprised and excited. Shirzan stared at the plate, blinking, his mouth practically watering. On the plate was fresh, juicy mutated beast meat, covered in a thick, glistening sauce, its mouth-watering aroma wafting through the air. Fresh mutated beast meat, and the best cut from the body at that, roasted to perfection. It was an absolute delicacy. A foodie awakened couldn't hold back, drool practically dripping from his mouth. Many others secretly sighed. The Shi-Ing squad. They were seriously too rich to be able to eat like this in the apocalypse. We're all awakened, so why is the gap so huge? Inside the mobile base, the lights dimmed. Rin Xiu and the others had already gone to sleep. In my hand were 7 glowing red level 1 crystallized cores. Today, I had harvested 7 level 1 mutated crystal cores from Gonyang and had already sent them straight to the energy lab. My mind kept replaying the confrontation with Tang Chongfei, and the more I thought about it, the more I shuddered. Just one slip up, and he could have charged right up to my face. That moment was truly too dangerous. This made me clearly realize the gap between myself and a true level 2 awakened. Even though I had the mobile base, if I couldn't launch a sneak attack to inflict heavy damage, facing Tang Chongfei head-on was still extremely risky. Even if he couldn't destroy the base, taking down someone with his speed was no easy task. Therefore, I absolutely had to keep getting stronger. I still had 2 mutated thorn seeds in my hand. Looking at them, I felt quite satisfied. The mutated plant research lab was running smoothly. Although resources were still tight, thanks to the mother mutated thorn plant, the breeding process was going well. As long as I steadily supplied mutated beast meat and a certain amount of metal, a new seed would be produced every 2 days on average. This speed was enough for now. Later, when we had more mutated beast meat, the lab would definitely be upgraded, and the seed production rate would skyrocket. The power of the mutated thorn seeds had already been proven on Gonyang's team. Even an awakened, if caught off guard, could be taken down. Having another attack method meant having an extra layer of insurance for myself. Brother Jiang, Zhu Ying's condition has completely stabilized. Her awakened cell energy is very abundant, and her heart and lungs are functioning well. The cabin lights were off. Li Yuhan left Zhu Ying's bedside and softly reported to me. Now, besides Zero, who always called me captain, even Li Yuhan, my old classmate and former campus belle, had gotten used to calling me Brother Jiang. Yuhan, thank you. Take this and eat it, I said, handing her an evolution crystal. These past few days, she had barely slept, always keeping watch over Zhu Ying. I saw it all and kept it in mind. An evolution crystal? I can't, this is too precious. My ability is only support. You should let Zhang Hai or the others use it instead. Seeing clearly what was in my hand, Li Yuhan hurriedly declined. Within the team, she always felt she didn't contribute much. Moreover, my helping her find clues about her parents and grandfather had made her incredibly grateful. The others already have theirs. I opened my hand, revealing a handful of evolution crystals. I'm not just giving this to you for your contributions. Shao Qi told me that awakened who joined the Heiyuan military, if they perform well, are all issued evolution crystals. Their speed of getting stronger is much faster, and some have even reached level 2 because of it. Our team can't fall behind. I spoke slowly. Having the mobile base, the Shi-Ing squad had won too easily lately, and our sense of danger had gradually faded. But today, seeing 200 highly trained military awaken with my own eyes, feeling their overwhelming aura and the presence of Li Yinchang, I truly felt the pressure. My team couldn't hide in the base forever. Every time we left it, we had to face the cruelty of the apocalypse head-on. So, while the base was still running well, boosting our individual strength was an urgent priority. The military district had massive resources to focus on training elite awakened, and their results proved it. But unlike other teams, I could produce evolution crystals myself, something no other awakened could do. Hearing my words, Li Yuhan thought for a moment, then looked up. She slowly said that speaking of level 2 awakened, when Zhu Ying woke up, it was highly likely she would break through. Furthermore, Yuhan had recently noticed a clear change in Zero. The latest scan showed that the energy in Zero's awakened cells had tripled compared to before. Moreover, her food intake had increased significantly lately. She was probably about to evolve again. Hearing that reminder, my heart stirred, and I followed her gaze over to Zero. In the darkness, Zero was leaning against the bed. This girl with the mutated leopard cat ability was radiating a faint layer of energy. Though very weak, it could still be sensed by Starbug. Leaking awakened energy? I smiled faintly. I had heard Shao Qi mention before that when some level 2 awakened cells reached a certain level of power, they would experience energy leakage while preparing for their next evolution. Zero showing these signs now was clearly a good thing. Perhaps I should prioritize giving her more resources in the near future. Even though Zero was the last to join the team, this quiet, always cold-looking girl had never once backed down. She always silently charged into the most dangerous front lines, without hesitation, without complaint. To me, Zero was already someone I could completely trust. Rustle, rustle. Suddenly, an unusual sound echoed in the darkness. Right after, Starbug's cold voice rang in my head. Warning. Unusual energy fluctuation detected. Direction, southeast. An unusual energy fluctuation? That left me both surprised and thrilled. I immediately gave a low command. Everyone up. On guard. Whenever Starbug issued a warning, it was absolutely no small matter. Many types of special energy could bring massive benefits to the base. No matter what, I had to seize this opportunity. The Shirring squad woke up instantly. Outside the Doomsday Beggars camp, the campfires were still burning, and quite a few people had also reacted. Many awakened with sharp hearing had caught the strange noise. In the flickering firelight, shadows moved as teams quickly geared up and left their tents. My transit vehicle's engine purred as it slowly pulled up to the front of the camp. I opened the door, looked at Shirzan with a serious expression, and told him the strange noise was coming from the southeast. Shirzan frowned and nodded, saying they had noticed it too and had already sent someone to scout. That direction led deep into the town. Nighttime wasn't ideal for combat, so they originally planned to rest and conduct a full search in the morning. My Shirring squad is going too, I said bluntly. Shirzan was slightly surprised. It was just a scouting run, yet the Shirring squad wanted to move out personally? Right at that moment, an earth-shattering noise erupted from the southeast. Boom. In the dark of night, the sound of trees snapping echoed loudly as rows of trunks were knocked down. Then came a few scattered gunshots, followed by a bizarre rustling sound rapidly spreading across the ground, echoing hollowly and sending chills down everyone's spines. Then, a blood-curdling scream tore through the night. Everyone instantly shuddered. In a pitch-black corner of the town, a motorcycle's headlight flicked on, illuminating the snow-covered road. The bike sped straight toward the camp, dragging a long trail of blood behind it. A bald awakened fell off the bike, groaning in pain that there were tons of bizarre bugs crawling out of the hospital in town, where there was a massive underground nest. His left thigh had shriveled up grotesquely, leaving nothing but skin and bones. Inside a fist-sized wound, something was wriggling, with octopus-like tentacles digging deep into his flesh. Many who saw it gasped in horror. Rin Shiyu's voice echoed in my head, saying there was something inside the wound. Without hesitation, I drew my gun and aimed straight at the bald awakened. Shirzan was startled and yelled, asking what I was doing, but it was too late. Bang! The bullet pierced through the wound on his thigh, and a fleshy bug fell to the ground, thrashing wildly. Its body was covered in tentacles, and a large hole had been blown through its belly, emitting an ear-piercing screech. Zero immediately hoisted the bug up. Her dagger flashed, slicing off all its tentacles in just a few breaths. Zero reported that this was a mutated species, and it was only a larva. I took it, frowning as I examined it. My hands were still stained with blood. The larva had incredibly strong vitality. The severed tentacles were already growing back at a visible rate, even trying to burrow into my hand. But my body had been enhanced by defensive genes, so the tentacles couldn't pierce my skin. The larva was also covered in a slimy substance like egg whites. It had clearly just been born, yet it was already this vicious. I sternly asked what happened. The bald awakened weakly recounted that he had followed the sound to an abandoned maternity hospital, only to have a giant tentacle shoot out from the ground and pierce his leg. Then, countless bugs swarmed out of the hole, and he panicked and fled back here. An image instantly flashed in my mind. A tentacle piercing flesh, implanting eggs, the eggs hatching, and the larvae sucking the host dry of blood and flesh. I was almost certain my theory was right. Shirzan and the others all frowned. Hearing the words, beast nest, many turned pale. If it really was a beast nest, they would have to retreat immediately. I looked at the bald awakened, who was about to pass out from the pain, and said it was probably just a small nest. If it were a true beast nest, he wouldn't have been able to escape. The bald awakened weakly nodded in confirmation. Suddenly, the surroundings fell dead silent. Under the light reflecting off the snow, we saw a horde of zombies charging toward us, followed by 7 or 8 mutated beasts. But my gaze went far beyond them. Behind the beast pack, a massive body was slowly emerging. It was an adult mutated bug, as tall as a 2-story building, with countless thick tentacles coiling around it like pythons. The ruined buildings swept by its tentacles collapsed with a deafening roar. I immediately warned everyone, my mind growing even more suspicious. An adult bug like this should have appeared with an entire swarm. For it to show up alone completely contradicted the pack mentality of mutated species. Gunfire erupted in a frenzy. Bullets tore through the air, zombies fell in droves, and the mutated beasts, though wounded, still fought back fiercely. A mutated lizard lunged forward, enduring heavy concentrated fire, but still managed to whip its tail and tear open an awakened's chest. The battle became incredibly brutal. On the other side, Shirzan glowed, his body enveloped in awakened energy as he faced a mutated squirrel head-on. Wherever they clashed, steam rose like boiling water. I watched closely, silently assessing him. Shirzan's ability was indeed not weak. However, my eyes remained locked onto the giant bug. Its tentacles stabbed into the corpses of zombies and mutated beasts, sucking them dry of blood and flesh, leaving behind only dry husks. As it moved forward, countless larvae dropped from the corpses hanging on its tentacles, crawling all over the ground. It was too grotesque. I frowned. I absolutely could not let those tentacles touch me. They were definitely packed with bug eggs. Once they pierced their prey, the eggs would hatch, and the larvae would immediately grow by absorbing nutrients directly from the host's body. Many awakened had also noticed the giant bug. Seeing it drop larvae onto the ground with their own eyes gave everyone goosebumps. The injured bald awakened was a living example. No further warnings were needed. Bang! Bang! By now, most of the zombies and mutated beasts had been wiped out. All firepower was instantly focused on the giant bug. Damn it, the bullets aren't piercing. Zhiliang cursed through gritted teeth, holding a red-hot Type 95 submachine gun. Even when riddled with bullets, the bug's body remained as pliable as glue, taking almost no damage. Bring up the machine guns, Shirzan shouted, tossing the mutated squirrel's corpse aside. Everyone knew the situation was extremely dire. If they couldn't kill this bug, they'd be forced to retreat from the town, and the Level 3 reclamation mission would be a failure. Not long after, a light machine gun was brought up. Shirzan grabbed the gun and yelled at everyone, "Empty all your mags into it. Don't conserve ammo. If it's still alive and gets within 50 meters, fall back immediately." Understood. The tension peaked. Everyone knew this adult mutated bug couldn't be fought in close combat. Once pierced by an egg-carrying tentacle, the only outcome was death. 50 meters was the absolute safe limit, and Shirzan's order clearly showed the decisiveness of a seasoned commander. Bang! Bang! Machine guns, Type 95 submachine guns, and even grenades rained down on the bug relentlessly. In the snow-covered night, flames and shock waves erupted violently, creating a shocking spectacle. The giant bug's massive body paused for a moment. Machine gun fire drilled countless tiny holes into it, but immediately after, a thick fluid oozed from the wounds, quickly sealing them, stopping the bleeding and healing the damage. The tiny eyes on its body flashed with an eerie light. Its tentacles coiled tight, and its speed suddenly surged. "Fall back," Shirzan ordered in a deep voice. Right at that moment, an unusual sound rang out. It was the sound of metal joints locking together. Shirzan turned his head, and an unbelievable sight met his eyes. At some point, a sleek black metal cannon barrel had emerged from my minibus. The barrel constantly adjusted, finally locking onto the softest part of the mutated bug's underbelly. What is that?" Xiaoqi gasped in shock. "Looks like the Shi-Ing squad's secret weapon." Zhiliang held him back, his eyes shining. Beside him, Wang Chuanfu's mouth hung open, unable to close it for a long time. Here we go again. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the minibus. Even Shirzan had a wild thought. Could that be a cannon? They mounted a cannon straight onto the roof. As unbelievable as it seemed, with the Shi-Ing squad, anything seemed possible. Boom. An earth-shattering explosion rang out. The air was pierced, forming a white vortex that shot straight into the bug's belly like a dragon. That area was already riddled with wounds, and now it was completely torn open by the air cannon, leaving a massive crater larger than a millstone. The mutated bug shrieked, thrashing wildly, causing rows of surrounding buildings to collapse. An air cannon? That's brutal. Shirzan was shaken. He never expected a small minibus to carry such a terrifying weapon. The air cannon quickly retracted. This weapon needed time to recharge, and the bug had no intention of waiting. Why retract it? Why not shoot again? Many people panicked. Seeing the cannon pull back, the hope that had just ignited began to waver. But right after, another device extended from the front of the minibus, a thicker metal tube, looking like a nozzle. By now, the bug had closed in to within 20 or 30 meters. The terrifying pressure almost made many flee, but the minibus stood firm like a final anchor. Is this thing strong? Wang Chuanfu stared, his eyes burning. He had never seen a modified vehicle like this. Whoosh! A scorching fire snake spewed from the nozzle under the minibus. Snow melted and evaporated, and dry grass crackled as it burned. The roaring flames engulfed the mutated bug. Under the terrifying heat, the fat on its body caught fire and exploded. Most importantly, the flames followed the wound created by the air cannon, penetrating deep into its belly and burning it from the inside out. Boom! The mutated bug exploded, sending boiling fat flying everywhere. Some awakened standing too close got burned and scrambled back in panic. The minibus retracted its flamethrower, returning to its normal appearance. Zhi Liang praised it endlessly, and Wang Chuanfu was so excited he couldn't look away. He had already made up his mind. No matter what, he had to beg me to modify his car. Shirzan breathed a sigh of relief. The mutated bug was finally dealt with. If it were just his team, they wouldn't have dared to fight it at night. Even with 3 days, it would have cost them a lot of time and casualties. Thank God for the Shiring squad. The moment that thought crossed his mind, Shirzan himself was startled. Without realizing it, he had completely acknowledged our strength. The minibus drove up beside him. I rolled down the window and said bluntly, "I'm taking half the mutated beast meat and crystal cores." Shirzan paused for a beat, then nodded immediately. "No problem. It's what you deserve. I'm going to check out that abandoned hospital. There's something wrong with that place." After saying that, my minibus drove past the still smoldering bug corpse and sped deep into the town. Starbug kept warning me about the unusual energy fluctuation, so I was highly focused. The vehicle took a sharp turn, and a desolate white building appeared in the winter night. In front of the 5-story hospital gates was a terrifyingly deep crater, filled with snow and surrounded by deep, dense grooves. You didn't even have to think to know this was the trail left by the giant bug crawling out. Without even looking closely, I knew this was the trail left by the giant mutated flesh worm when it crawled out. But immediately after, my gaze stopped at the large crater ahead, and I noticed a heavily damaged green military jeep inside. The wreckage was covered in thick, gooey slime. The unusual energy fluctuation Starbug had detected was coming from this military jeep. The vehicle's body was heavily rusted in many places, and a very strange feeling welled up inside me. This was clearly the mutated fleshworm's nest, so why was there a military jeep here? Were 2 mechanical arms extended from the minibus, pulling the green jeep out of the crater. With a heavy thud, rust and mud cascaded off the vehicle. The entire jeep was almost completely shattered. Right after, 3 skeletons were revealed inside. All 3 were nothing but skin and bones. Their flesh had completely vanished, leaving behind shriveled, empty husks of skin. It was a horrifying sight. 2 were wearing military uniforms, clearly soldiers, while the 3rd wore a white lab coat. Looking at their clothes, my heart skipped a beat. These 3 perfectly matched the missing scientists mentioned in the Level 3 reclamation order. The mutated fleshworm had probably eaten all their flesh and blood. I noticed that the skin on all 3 skeletons was covered in countless tiny, needle-like holes. The image of the bald awakened's shriveled left leg instantly flashed in my mind, and I pretty much understood exactly what had happened. One of the skeletons in military uniform had a large hole in its chest, looking like something had burst out from inside. The skeleton in the lab coat, despite being dead, still had its remaining arm tightly clutching a broken lockbox. The unusual energy fluctuation Starbug had detected was coming from this box. Brother Jiang, there's a strange mental fluctuation inside, but no danger. Rin Shiyu's voice echoed in my head after she used her mental ability to check. I nodded and carefully opened the damaged lockbox. Inside, items wrapped in foam gradually revealed themselves, various sized vials and jars covered in labels, along with quite a few bizarre objects. There was also an envelope made of craft paper, preserved very carefully. One of the jars contained an egg-shaped object, about the size of a pigeon egg. There was a small crack on the jar, from which a bit of dried, egg white-like liquid had leaked out. Seeing this, I frowned. That slime looked exactly like the fluid the mutated fleshworm secreted. I read the label on the jar: phylum Arthropoda, class Insecta, order Hymenoptera, family Formicidae. Mutated queen and egg sample. 2 eggs. Observed reverse DNA mutation. Results pending. My heart pounded. These were clearly samples from a scientific lab. Looking at the other jars, they were all experimental samples. Mutating human brainstem samples, zombie skin tissue samples, mutated beast eye samples, mutated plant samples, and so much specialized data that I couldn't understand it at all. My emotions began to churn violently. I quickly opened the craft paper envelope, which contained research documents. On the first page, a prominent line of text caught my eye. Special Research Team, Institute of Biological Sciences, Jinling University. Team Leader, Yang Guanqing. Professor Yang Guanqing. Just seeing that name made my heart sink. Before the apocalypse, this name was famous both domestically and internationally. The Human Genome Project had once shocked the world, and he was the one in charge of the East Asia region. Even a guy who spent all day playing games like I used to had heard of Professor Yang's reputation. Unable to hold back, I started reading the documents carefully. The more I read, the graver my expression became. The cause of the zombie virus is incredibly complex. Origin unknown. Perhaps we must go to the permafrost regions of the Far East, where the virus was first discovered, to find the truth. The zombie virus doesn't just kill the host's neural tissue, it replaces it. It can live symbiotically with human cells, absorbing environmental energy like sunlight to create mutated energy to sustain itself. If not destroyed, a zombie can survive for a very long time. This symbiotic relationship alters the host's DNA, forming mutated energy and completely changing their behavior and habits. By eating their own kind, the host absorbs more energy, accumulating it in their body to form highly pure energy crystals. I flipped rapidly through the pages. There was a lot I didn't understand, but thanks to my enhanced neural processing, I memorized it all. Toward the end, the documents became heavily emotional, lacking scientific rigor. Clearly, during the research process, Professor Yang's mind had been under immense pressure. The more I research, the more terrified I become. The zombie virus is spreading across the world. The evolution speed of flora and fauna is accelerating. Mutated zombies with basic combat intelligence have even appeared. The apocalypse will never end. Humanity's only hope is to evolve faster. This is an evolutionary race. Humanity must persevere. We must win. On the last page, the handwriting was so messy that it took me a long time to decipher it. In every stroke lay the deep despair of a scientist who had seen a future no one wanted to face. I clenched my fists, a cold chill spreading through my body. Even Yang Guanqing, a top-tier scientist, had fallen into such despair facing this post-apocalyptic world. Brother Jiang, these documents. Li Yuhan had been standing beside me for a while. When she saw the contents clearly, a heavy look flashed across her beautiful face. No matter how bad it gets, it can only get so bad. I turned to look at her, my voice steady. Mutated beasts and zombies are evolving, but human awakened are evolving very fast too. Even though I'm not an awakened, I have Starbug, and I have the mobile base. I, and the people beside me, are constantly getting stronger. In this dangerous apocalypse, I still have my sister, my friends, and my brothers fighting by my side. Rumble. The sound of engines echoed from behind. A line of heavy trucks pulled up one after another behind my minibus. Captain Jiang, find anything? Shirzan walked over quickly. His eyes immediately fell on the pulled-up vehicle wreckage and the 3 skeletons. found the missing scientists, along with their 2 military escorts. I said calmly, while carefully putting all the research documents back into the craft paper envelope. These things were incredibly important. To certain scientists, their value was no less than an entire army. Shirzan's eyes lit up. This meant the level 3 reclamation order was complete, and they had even exceeded expectations. When he looked at me, his gaze clearly held more respect. He was starting to realize that traveling with me seemed to make missions a whole lot easier. Not long after, the awakened soldiers who had gone into the nest to check also came back out, stepping on the thick, egg-white-like slime underfoot. It's so weird. Why were their car and bodies in the same place as the mutated fleshworm's nest? Someone asked in confusion. Bugs have a habit of dragging food back to their nests. As I spoke, I quietly slipped the jar containing the mutated queen ant egg into my pocket. In the darkness, only Shirzan saw this move, but he just glanced at it and stayed silent. The unusual energy fluctuation starbug kept warning me about what was coming from this egg. No matter what, I had to take it. What's that? Shirzan looked at the craft paper envelope. Research documents, I replied briefly. Shirzan hesitated for a moment, then curbed his curiosity. He knew these things were only truly valuable when handed over to scientists. Looking at them himself would only bring trouble, and he probably wouldn't even understand them anyway. Professor Yang Guanqing is dead. His research documents and experimental samples are incredibly precious. I continued. We should head back to the Huyuan safe zone immediately and hand them over to the government. Professor Yang Guanqing? Shirzan froze, his expression changing drastically. He obviously knew the professor's reputation from before the apocalypse. Gently move the remains of the scientists and soldiers onto the trucks. The experimental samples must be preserved carefully too. We're heading back to the Huyuan safe zone right now. Shirzan's orders rang out through the wind and snow. The heavy trucks were all assembled, but someone immediately objected. Traveling at night is too dangerous, and we still have to cross the mountains. Captain, we should rest and wait for morning. These objections weren't unreasonable. In the apocalypse, nighttime was always the most dangerous time. We have to go back now, I spoke up. If we get back in time, the Huyuan safe zone will likely reward us heavily. The things we recovered from this level 3 mission are of extreme value to the government. With that, I headed back to the minibus with Zhang Hai and the others. The hesitant crowd looked at each other for a moment, then returned to their vehicles one by one. Traveling with the Shur-ing squad clearly lowered the danger level significantly. Soon, the convoy set off again. Watching this, Shirzan could only smile bitterly. He didn't know when it happened, but my words somehow carried more weight than his own. On the way here, my minibus had been at the very back. On the way back, it was leading the pack, speeding through the ice and snow. The tires crushed the thick snow, carving out a stable path ahead. As soon as I got back to the vehicle, I immediately handed out evolution crystals to Rin Shiyu and the others. The pure crystals left everyone stunned. Zhang Hai and the others swallowed hard. Just one of these was equivalent to 3 or 4 of the evolution crystals issued by the government. Just divide them up. I said decisively. There will be plenty more reclamation missions in the future. The Huyuan safe zone has a lot of level 2 awakened. If you guys don't evolve, how are you going to keep up? No one declined anymore, dividing the crystals among themselves right then and there. Zero took one, her eyes showing clear joy. She could clearly feel her body's thirst for energy. Zero, take another one, I called out to her. Captain, I can't do that, Zero said awkwardly. Yuhan said you're showing signs of a second evolution. Put it to good use. I just nodded. Zero understood immediately. Clenching the crystal tightly in her hand, a rare feeling of warmth welled up in her heart. In this cruel apocalypse, such warmth was an incredible luxury. I looked at everyone, my voice turning serious. From now on, we have to train and fight more. The apocalypse is going to last a very long time. Mutated beasts and zombies are evolving faster and faster. The atmosphere inside the minibus grew heavy. Everyone understood. They had grown too used to relying on the MCV. This was a fatal weakness. With that said, I swallowed an evolutionary crystal. The familiar burning sensation spread throughout my body. I began to take inventory of my assets. 2 evolutionary crystals left. 3 level 2 mutant nuclei. For level 1 mutant nuclei. Not much left. If I want to get stronger, I have to keep taking on missions. I looked over at the mutant queen and egg. Starseed. Warning. The basic MCV cannot complete the scan. The energy entity exceeds the current energy level. I froze. The energy level of this egg was actually higher than the current MCV? That meant it could be even more terrifying than the mutant meatworm we just killed. Right then, the energy from the evolutionary crystal inside me suddenly surged. An intense, scorching heat hit me. My head spun, and my skin went numb as if thousands of ants were crawling over it. This power, it really is remodeling my body. I gradually sank into that sensation. The convoy, like a long steel snake, advanced silently through the snowy night. Around midnight, I suddenly woke up. Ing had detected something unusual up ahead. Several heavy trucks were speeding toward us, their headlights blazing. I immediately stopped the vehicle, and the convoy behind me followed suit. The off-road vehicles closed in, the machine guns mounted on their roofs locking onto the targets. Fingers tightened on the triggers, aiming straight ahead. The approaching vehicles also came to a halt. I saw a flag being raised, the Black Sun, the symbol of the Doomsday Walkers. Shortly after, a few people stepped out of the vehicles. President Ho. I got a clear look at the man leading them, and my heart couldn't help but jolt. I was genuinely surprised. For Ho Dinkuan to lead a convoy of heavy trucks out here in the freezing dead of night, something unusual must have happened. Sure San was visibly anxious. Captain, could the Blackwater organization have attacked our headquarters? He stepped out of the car, his face grave. What nonsense are you spouting? Ho Dinkuan burst out laughing, his tone half-joking. If Blackwater dared to make a move inside the safe zone, do they have a death wish? He continued, the military already reported our clash with the Blackwater organization yesterday noon, and they even praised us for a job well done. Then his gaze shifted to me, his tone growing even more polite, saying that it was thanks to the Sure Ing squad's strength and my command that Blackwater suffered such heavy losses. I just smiled faintly. Clearly, Ho Dinkuan had already gathered quite a bit of intel. Even though he looked thrilled, his smile deepening the wrinkles on his face, his eyes would occasionally dart toward a man standing next to him as he spoke. It was a young soldier with a robust build and a rigid, imposing posture. His military uniform wasn't the standard issue. It was a blue and white camouflage pattern. As I was observing him, he looked back at me, his gaze cold and stern. Are you Zhang Lushi? The soldier asked in a deep voice. I am Gao Fei, captain of the 1st Guard Squad of District A in the Heiyuan Safe Zone. Under the orders of Captain Zhang Gaohua, I am here to pick up Miss Li Yusin. I froze. Zhang Gaohua. I had never heard that name before. Moreover, the first thing he mentioned was taking Li Yusin away. Seeing my confusion, Ho Dinkuan laughed out loud and explained. I had previously asked him to look into a scientist surnamed Su from the Zhonghai Safe Zone. Unexpectedly, the person he asked happened to run into Captain Zhang. Professors Su Tong and Su Ku had also been asking Captain Zhang to look into the Sure Ing squad. Hearing that we were out on a mission, they were worried about our safety, which was why they sent someone to find us in the middle of the night. Are the two professors all right? Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief. Even though I had previously comforted Li Yusin by telling her that her parents and grandfather were likely still safe, hearing it confirmed firsthand still took a massive weight off my chest. In the apocalypse, having your loved ones survive such hardships was truly a rare blessing. Gao Fei nodded, stating that Professor Su Tong and Professor Su Keguang were currently very safe. When the Zhonghai Safe Zone was destroyed, they were among the first batch of scientists to be evacuated and are now living in District A under the government's arrangements. He came here specifically to bring Li Yusin back for a reunion. I nodded. If the two professors were safe, then Li Yusin should naturally go see her family. I immediately contacted Shiyu in my mind, asking her to call Yusin down and explain that her mother and grandfather were in the Heiyuan Safe Zone. Shiyu's voice echoed in my mind, clearly carrying a hint of joy. Not long after, the minibus door opened. Li Yusin stepped down, her eyes red. She had clearly been told the news. Her face showed a mix of deep emotion and unconcealed joy. She looked at me, saying that this news came so suddenly. Though her eyes were still red, the The smile on her lips was incredibly genuine. I smiled and told her to hurry and get in the car. Her family was waiting. At the thought of finally reuniting with her parents and grandfather, Lee Yusin's emotions surged, and she nodded immediately. But before leaving, she looked back at me and softly asked if I could come along to meet her family, saying they would definitely want to see me too. I shook my head, telling her there was no rush. I had just completed 2 level 3 reclamation missions and still needed to handle the rewards. I would visit her parents and grandfather tomorrow or the day after. I was genuinely happy for her, because in this apocalypse, I had also experienced the joy of such a reunion. Though still a bit hesitant, Lee Yusin finally nodded. After she followed Gao Fei into an off-road vehicle, Ho Dinkuan dispatched his elites to escort them away. Watching the convoy gradually disappear into the night, he turned to me, looking a bit apologetic that his arrival had immediately cost my team a member. I just replied that it was fine. I was also very happy that Uxin could reunite with her family. As the convoy drove away, Shirzan couldn't help but ask about that Captain Zhang. Ho Dinkuan calmly explained that Zhang Gaohua had been recently promoted. Before that, he was a subordinate of Peng Dinglong, an elite special agent. Hearing this name, Shirzan couldn't help but be shocked. Peng Dinglong was the supreme commander of the Xiangwu military base, a figure with real power. It was no wonder Ho Dinkuan deliberately tried to get close to him. Ho Dinkuan half-jokingly said that he really admired me, as my team member was highly regarded by Captain Gao. Her family were scientists highly valued by the government, so he'd have to cling tightly to me from now on. I just gave a faint smile. In the apocalypse, I never believed in relying on others. After all, even an ironclad safe zone like Zhonghai had collapsed. Finally, Ho Dinkuan got back to the main point, asking if the mission to find the scientists had failed. Because according to his calculations, these 2 missions should have taken at least half a week. Shirzan then smiled brightly, saying that both level 3 missions had been completed. Ho Dinkuan was stunned. After hearing Shirzan recount the entire process, his expression constantly changed. He never expected that with just a sniper rifle, I could go toe-to-toe with Tang Chongfei. I even forced him to hand over 3 level 2 mutant cores and successfully retrieve the scientists' bodies. In the end, Ho Dinkuan solemnly thanked me on behalf of the Doomsday Beggar Squad. If he only wanted to use the Shi-Ing squad before, now he was truly grateful from the bottom of his heart. The way he looked at me was completely different. I just replied lightly that we were partners, and this was what I should do. Right at that moment, I suddenly froze, my head spinning. Ho Dinkuan noticed my pale face and asked what was wrong. I shook my head, saying I was just a little tired. But I knew very well that a powerful surge of energy had just rushed straight to the top of my head, making me uncomfortable for a moment. We quickly hit the road. As dawn broke, the convoy entered the Huyuan safe zone, heading straight for District C, the largest trading center and reclamation mission headquarters. Not long after, a phone call from this headquarters sent shockwaves through District A. High-ranking military, political, and medical officials were simultaneously summoned, despite the freezing winter night. The last time such a scene occurred was when the Zhonghai safe zone collapsed. Outside the reclamation mission headquarters, we waited patiently in the biting cold. Over half an hour later, Director Zhang walked out and handed me the mission reward slip. Even though I had anticipated a massive reward, I still couldn't help but be amazed when I saw the contents. The total reward for the 2 level 3 reclamation missions included 20 level 1 mutant cores, 3 light machine guns, several rifles, 5 crates of ammunition, and 5 tons of mutant beast meat. Outside the headquarters, Zhonghai couldn't hold back his cheers of joy. The others were also beaming, smiles evident on every face. The other members of the Doomsday Beggar Squad couldn't hide their joy either, their eyes full of gratitude as they looked at the Shi-Ing squad. Without us, there was absolutely no way they could have received such a generous reward. According to our initial agreement, the reward would be split in half, but even just half of it was unbelievably valuable. Not only that, Director Zhang of the Reclamation Mission Headquarters directly upgraded the Shi-Ing squad to rank B. I had previously thought we'd reach rank C at most. I didn't expect to skip it and go straight to rank B. It didn't stop there. He even left me a private contact address. This made Ho Dinkuan visibly jealous, because it meant the government would very likely assign missions directly to the Shi-Ing squad in the future. We had caught the eye of the highest echelons, and being directly assigned missions was completely different from taking regular missions on our own. While driving back to the small house in District B, Zhang Hai was still thrilled, laughing and saying I should have seen Ji Liang's face. He was smiling so wide he looked like an ass. I chuckled too, telling everyone to hurry up and rest since we had all worked hard yesterday. This reward truly left me satisfied. For my share alone, I got 10 level 1 mutant cores, a light machine gun, mutant beast meat, and ammunition. My biggest worry right now was whether I had enough storage space. For a long time to come, I wouldn't have to worry about resources at all. Counting the guns previously seized from the Gonyang squad and this reward, I had over 70 firearms, enough to equip at least 5 elite squads. Right then, I suddenly froze. An intense itching sensation spread throughout my body, like thousands of ants crawling over my skin. This feeling was tied to the abundant energy from the evolutionary crystal, making my head throb and spin. Actually, ever since I used the evolutionary crystal yesterday, this symptom had been appearing in waves, but it was clearly much stronger now. It felt like something was trying to burst out from deep within my soul and bone marrow, but was blocked by an invisible membrane. Zhang Hai called out to me in a panic, afraid something was wrong. I took a deep breath, reassuring him that it was just a little itchy. Even so, before I could finish speaking, I heard a loud thud behind me. When Zhang Hai turned around, his expression instantly changed. I collapsed to the ground like a log, completely losing consciousness. In my daze, I heard someone calling my name. When I opened my eyes, I found myself lying on the large bed in the minibus, surrounded by soft lighting. Zhang Hai and the team members were gathered around, their faces full of worry. I was shocked to realize I had fainted. Everything after that was a complete blank in my memory. Zhang Hai said it was Ying who insisted on bringing me onto the vehicle. I had been unconscious for over 15 minutes. When everyone was about to put me on the bed in the small house, somehow Ying, who always stayed in the vehicle, knew I was in trouble and carried me onto the base vehicle herself. Despite her petite frame, her strength left everyone dumbfounded. I looked back and saw Ying standing there, her figure silent, her gaze cold yet attentive. The moment our eyes met, her voice echoed in my mind. She said my body's condition was highly abnormal. The energy from the evolutionary crystal was too pure, causing an energy overload that affected my nervous system. I was still just an ordinary person and hadn't evolved mutant cells yet, so my tolerance for mutant energy was limited. That was why she brought me onto the base vehicle, the only place that could help my body recover. What worried me most was the recovery time. I asked how long it would take, as the dizziness was still prominent, and I had to participate in a level 5 reclamation mission soon. Ying informed me that if I let my body recover on its own, it would take at least a month, and I couldn't use any more evolutionary crystals during that time. With my current physique, I could only absorb a maximum of 1/3 of an evolutionary crystal at a time. I could only smile bitterly. The evolutionary crystals produced by the Energy Lab were 3 times purer than the government's. For me, it had become a burden. I asked if there was a faster way to recover. Ying told me to wait a moment, and then the Starseed's voice rang out, saying I could use the level 2 gene evolutionary fluid. I immediately understood. To get that, I had to upgrade the biological laboratory, which required a level 2 mutant core. Hearing this gave me a headache. I had just gathered 3 level 2 cores, and now I had to spend another one, which meant delaying the base vehicle's upgrade. But I gritted my teeth and decided to upgrade it right away, because the level 2 gene evolutionary fluid wouldn't just heal my cellular damage. It would also help me undergo my second evolution. In everyone's eyes, I was just standing still, which made Rin Xiu incredibly anxious. I reassured her that I'd be fine by tomorrow and still had to go meet Yu Xian as promised. After that, I stood up and walked straight into the cockpit. A metallic hum rang out as alloy panels from the vehicle's walls closed in, turning the cockpit into a sealed space. This was a defense mechanism to ensure no one saw things they shouldn't. Even though I trusted my teammates, some things were just too troublesome to explain, and I hated trouble. Sitting in the cockpit, I placed the level 2 mutant core into the metal slot and activated the second evolution for the biological laboratory. Half an hour later, a notification voice echoed in my mind. The Level 2 biological laboratory had been activated. A 3D panoramic screen appeared before my eyes, displaying not just data, but also intuitive visuals. I quickly skimmed through the information. The standard gene evolutionary fluid still enhanced defense, strength, speed, and the nervous system. But now there was a detailed body model clearly showing the effects of each type. The system had clearly become much smarter. The mutant type evolutionary fluid also had many new options, including natural element manipulation abilities. But the required amount of cores was too massive. In my estimation, it wasn't worth it. As long as I continuously enhanced my physique, I'd be strong enough to face ability users who had awakened beast bloodlines. Finally, my eyes stopped on a special item, Level 2 Bloodline Evolutionary Fluid. I had previously awakened the Blood Evolution Bloodline, which gave me outstanding recovery and endurance. This fluid would improve my circulatory system, mutating my blood cells to transport oxygen, nutrients, and energy more efficiently. Even though it required 5 Level 1 mutant cores, I didn't hesitate at all. The second evolution was just the beginning. There would be a third and a fourth. A powerful circulatory system would drive the comprehensive development of my body, bringing enduring vitality, something I valued more than any mutant ability. Since I had already used the Level 1 Bloodline Evolutionary Fluid, I could directly use the Level 2 version as soon as it was synthesized. Without a second thought, I placed 5 Level 1 mutant cores into the metal tray. Roar! A low, agonizing growl suddenly echoed from the sealed cockpit. Zhang Hai jumped, instinctively looking at Rin Xiu with worried eyes. At this moment, she was using her mental abilities to sense my condition. In her perception, I was enduring excruciating pain. But the red light representing me in the mental world flared up so brilliantly that it made her dizzy, forcing her to rub her temples. Brother Jiang is fine. Rin Xiu shook her head, reassuring Zhang Hai. Although she didn't know what I had gone through, she could clearly sense that I seemed to have grown stronger. Whoosh! The metal panels of the cockpit slowly retracted, and I appeared before everyone. Traces of large sweat drops still lingered on my face. It was obvious that in that sealed space, I had just endured immense agony. The massive amount of sweat had mostly evaporated from my body heat, leaving faint streaks on my skin. If one looked closely, they could see that my skin was now smooth and radiant like jade. My appearance was already quite striking, but now, every slight movement carried an indescribable aura. Even though I didn't display any mutant abilities, my body felt like it harbored a latent, explosive power. Brother Jiang, you look different. Zhang Hai looked at me in astonishment, but couldn't quite put his finger on what had changed. I'm fine. In fact, I'm great. I've never felt better. I chuckled softly. As I spoke, my hands grabbed a Type 64 pistol and began expertly disassembling and reassembling it. My fingers moved at blinding speed. In Zhang Hai's eyes, they were nothing but a blur. The magazine, the slide, the recoil spring, the firing mechanism. Everything was taken apart and put back together seamlessly, without a single hitch. Terrifying. Zhang Hai shuddered. As an ability user, he knew exactly how scary this speed was. If I were holding a gun right now, I could kill him in dozens of different ways in just a single second. More importantly, such speed put immense pressure on the joints, yet I handled it effortlessly. That proved just how much my bones and joints had been reinforced. Clearly, my strength had increased again. Right then, hurried footsteps echoed from outside. Zhang Hai, Zhang Hai. Sun Kuan rushed into the vehicle. As soon as he stepped in, he saw me standing there. He froze for a second, then his face instantly lit up. Brother Jiang, you're awake. Thank God. It's an emergency. We need to go right now. Wang Chuanfu got beaten up. Xiao Qi and Zhi Liang are waiting outside to ask for help. What happened? I asked, my voice still very calm. I'm not too sure either. They're waiting at the gate of District B. Sun Kuan scratched his head. I pulled back the curtains and looked out toward the District B gate. Sure enough, I saw Xiao Qi and Zhi Liang standing there, sneaking glances at our place. I chuckled inwardly. These two had a problem, but didn't go to Ho Dingquan. He was the leader of the Doomsday Beggar Squad, yet they came to me first. Anyway, I had just completed my second evolution and really wanted to test out my current strength. Besides, I had a pretty good impression of Ling Feng, and Wang Chuanfu had been very polite during our previous cooperation. If they were really in trouble, I didn't mind lending a hand this once. Let's go take a look. Did they say where it happened? I think it was at the Rock Training Club. The Rock Training Club in the Heiyuan Safe Zone was an extremely unique place. Despite being called a club, every survivor in Heiyuan knew it was an incredibly brutal place. Bloody battles took place there every day. Any conflicts between squads or ability users could be settled publicly here. It also had all sorts of artificial equipment and tools for ability users to train themselves. Some even considered this place harsher than military training. The club wasn't located inside the safe zone, but in a village that had been cleared out during a reclamation mission. The old buildings were torn down, and utilizing the hilly terrain and surrounding river, the area was converted into various arenas. Surrounded by barbed wire and newly built structures, it formed a massive coliseum. There were all kinds of arenas here, like Deadwater, Poison Wasp, Doomsday, and Iron Cage. To enter, you needed a VIP card and had to pay a monthly fee of 100 kilos of mutant beast meat, a hefty expense for most ability users. From the high stands on the hillside, one could overlook the entire arena below. A young man in a neat military uniform sat watching, his voice full of praise. Despite his young age, the aura he exuded was like a massive mountain pressing down, creating immense pressure. In the Doomsday Arena to the south, the roars of mutant beasts echoed continuously as several ability users fled in panic. A short, stout middle-aged man in a suit stood behind him, answering respectfully. He looked more like a merchant than a manager. He said that without the military's support, the club wouldn't have been able to get so many mutant beasts. So they were constantly expanding their training programs, hoping to forge powerful ability users to join the military. Yi Bao, the captain of the military's elite mutant squad 1, wearing a large cloak and sitting nearby, coldly asked about the Blackwater organization sending mutant beasts over. The manager just smiled, saying the club was a public playground. He accepted whatever anyone sent. Right then, Tang Chongyang led his men over. He greeted them with a smile, but Yi Bao only snorted coldly, clearly not taking him seriously. Tang Chongyang looked at Li Yinchang with eyes full of reverence. This man was the captain of the military's elite mutant squad, a renowned figure. His strength was unfathomable, and he was the goal Tang Chongyang's older brother always wanted to surpass. Li Yinchang said in a deep voice that the pressure had been immense lately, and he wanted Tang Chongfei to return to the military, as the captain of Squad 2 had died in the Beast Horde. Yi Bao mocked that Tang Chongfei had fallen off, having faced an ordinary person with a gun without gaining the upper hand. Hearing this, Tang Chongyang could only force a smile. That incident was his clash with me, and any ability user could sense that I had no mutant abilities, which made it even harder for him to explain. Li Yinchang chuckled softly, saying I wasn't an ordinary person. I had just completed a level 3 reclamation mission and was already on the government military's radar. Someone who could go toe-to-toe with Tang Chongfei was definitely not simple. Even so, he believed Tang Chongfei hadn't used his full strength, because the gap between an ordinary person and an ability user couldn't be bridged by guns alone. Yi Bao suddenly looked toward the club's entrance, his eyes lighting up. Interesting. Speak of the devil, Jiang Lushi is here. Tang Chongyang followed his gaze and saw me leading my people in. Seeing Li Yinchang observing me with interest, anger welled up inside him. The fact that I had clashed with his brother had clearly left a good impression on a big shot. This inadvertently overshadowed Tang Chongfei's reputation. Thinking of this, Tang Chongyang flashed a meaningful smile. What's going on down there? Li Yinchang asked casually. My teammates and I entered the Poison Wasp arena, where two groups were facing off. One side clearly had fewer people and already had injured members. The moment I appeared, I stood with the underdog group. The club manager replied that it seemed a conflict had broken out, then cautiously asked if they should intervene. No need. Li Yinchang smiled faintly. Let them sort it out themselves. Hearing this, the chubby manager was momentarily stunned before immediately breathing a sigh of relief. Tang Chongyang also exhaled secretly, unable to hide the gloating smile on his lips. Only Yi Bao, standing nearby, smiled bitterly. In a way, Captain Li really was someone who loved intense conflicts. Tang Chongfei was also deeply influenced by Li Yinchong, always endorsing harsh training methods through life and death battles. They believed that only in the most dangerous situations could humans evolve faster. It seems Jiang Liushir's opponents are from the Blackwater organization. Li Yinchong whispered into Tang Chongyang's ear. Hearing this, a chill ran down Tang Chongyang's spine. He pretended to glance over, then slapped his thigh, forcing a smile and saying it was indeed true, blaming it on his own lax management of his subordinates. But Li Yinchong just replied casually, telling him not to put on an act, because he knew exactly who was behind this. Tang Chongyang was momentarily speechless, completely unable to guess the other party's true intentions. Don't worry. Li Yinchong continued, I'm looking for new recruits for the military's special mutant squad. Just let your men put on a good show. Hearing this, Tang Chongyang rejoiced inwardly. It turned out Li Yinchong had no favorable impression of me at all. This put him much more at ease. Joining the military was the dream of countless ability users in the Haiyuan safe zone. It was where the strongest gathered, receiving the best training and treatment. Just the fact that the government military could mass-produce evolutionary crystals was enough to make most freelance ability users drool with envy. Except for those who didn't want to be bound by military discipline, very few would turn down this opportunity. Haha, Tang Chongyang, it seems you've misunderstood Captain Li's intentions. Yi Bao spoke up coldly. Jiang Liushir is already on the military's radar. We're evaluating his potential. If your men aren't strong enough to force out his true strength and make the fight boring, we'll be very disappointed. Tang Chongyang froze upon hearing this, immediately turning to look at Li Yinchong questioningly. But a mysterious smile just flashed across Li Yinchong's face, and he said nothing more. Damn it! Tang Chongyang gritted his teeth, glaring furiously down at the arena where I stood. This kid kept making him lose face time and time again. The Poison Wasp Arena was one of the most enclosed arenas, second only to the Iron Cage Arena. Inside, there were only artificial rocks and hornets. The buzzing of the hornets echoed endlessly, to the point where you had to shout just to talk. Massive hornets darted in and out of the rock crevices, a dense, pitch-black swarm. If anyone had trypophobia, just looking at this scene would be enough to make them break down. I looked down at the two people sprawled on the ground, shaking my head slightly in my mind. They had been stung so badly they were deformed. If it weren't for Wang Chuanfu's signature clothes and skinny frame, I really wouldn't have recognized them. The other person was Ling Feng, Wang Chuanfu's core teammate. He was usually very calm, yet right now his mouth was swollen like a sausage. Even though ability users had strong physiques, these hornets were in a stage of mutant evolution, and their venom was extremely potent. Each one was almost the size of a small sausage. Even an ability user would find it hard to endure. The two had been stung hundreds of times and were currently unconscious. If they hadn't been injected with anti-venom in time, I'm afraid they would have died long ago. On the way here, I had heard Zhi Liang and Xiao Qi recount the whole incident in broken pieces. In short, they got played by the Blackwater guys. Yesterday, after completing the mission and receiving the reward, everyone was thrilled. Because they were about to participate in a level 5 reclamation mission, Ling Feng's squad and the Fengshan squad barely rested. Since they had a pretty good relationship with me, the two squads often invited each other to the rock training club to train. Unexpectedly, they were targeted as soon as they arrived. Each arena here was designed for different types of mutant abilities. Some were for strength training, some for reflex speed, and some specialized in endurance. Wang Chuanfu had chosen the Poison Wasp Arena. After witnessing my clash with Tang Chongfei, the Fengshan squad greatly admired my speed and reflexes. Wang Chuanfu's ability leaned toward reflexes, so he wanted to use this place to hone them further. But not long after, the Blackwater guys also entered the arena and constantly provoked them. Finally unable to take it, Wang Chuanfu stepped into the ring and demanded the staff release a massive swarm of hornets. As a result, he suffered a crushing defeat, was kicked out of the arena, and humiliated in front of the crowd. The Doomsday Beggar organization was humiliated along with him. Personal insults could be tolerated, but Ling Feng couldn't sit still when the organization was trampled on. He knew very well that if they didn't fight back, rumors would spread, and the Doomsday Beggars would never be able to recruit new members. An organization with no self-respect in the apocalypse was doomed to perish. As a result, Ling Feng stepped into the arena, but his fate was even worse than Wang Chuanfu's. He was stung by hornets until he passed out on the spot. At this point, Xiao Qi finally realized the problem. The opponent seemed to have the ability to control the hornets. The Blackwater ability user even admitted it and taunted them. In the end, Xiao Qi and Zhi Liang decided not to fall for the trap and ran off to find me. Brother Jiang, you're our only hope now. You have to teach these Blackwater bastards a lesson. They're too arrogant. Xiao Qi gritted his teeth, glaring at the opposite side. Brother Jiang, I believe you can definitely do it. Zhi Liang looked at me with eyes full of expectation. In the stands, Tang Changyang snorted coldly, angrily cursing it as a sneak attack, but no one bothered to respond to his words. Li Yinchang kept watching intently below, while Yi Bao shot him a mocking glance. These two completely ignored him, leaving Tang Changyang to grit his teeth and glare furiously down at the arena. Outside the Hornet Arena, the braided guy I had sent flying scrambled up from the ground, his face covered in dirt. He clutched his stomach, puking up bile, and cursed viciously. A punch straight to the stomach is a basic knockout technique in boxing. When the stomach is struck, nerve signals scramble, and the body instantly loses control. Even though he was an ability user, he still couldn't handle it. While cursing, he was also bewildered, not understanding what had just happened. Why didn't the hornets he controlled attack me in time? He didn't believe an ordinary person could be that fast. There had to be a catch. Since the apocalypse, he had grown increasingly contemptuous of ordinary people, making it even harder to accept being knocked down by me. Is this all the Doomsday Beggars amount to? If you've got the guts, get in the arena and fight Ashung fair and square. The Blackwater guys shouted provocations, even threatening to gang up on me. The surrounding crowd gradually gathered, everyone curious to see an ordinary person defeat an ability user. Zhi Liang sneered, cursing straight out that Ashung could control hornets yet still dared to enter the Hornet Arena. That was blatant cheating. I spoke up casually, saying it didn't matter if it was a sneak attack or not. If they wanted to fight, then fight. Just cursing was pointless. An opponent like Ashung was truly nothing in my eyes. If you've got the guts, step into the Hornet Arena and duel me. Do you dare? Ashung gritted his teeth. He had to drag me in there. Otherwise, he'd have no face left to face Tang Changyang. You want to die? I'll grant your wish. I darted into the Hornet Arena like an arrow. Ashung was overjoyed, because as long as I stepped in here, it was his home turf. He believed I would die a miserable death. He followed closely behind me into the iron cage. As the iron gate slammed shut, the cheers of the Blackwater guys erupted. The onlookers shook their heads, thinking I was too naive, as many had just witnessed firsthand how brutally Ling Feng and Wang Chuanfu had been tortured by the hornets.